Cats do not want to be friends with humans. Cats want to dominate humans.
Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the two Mikes on the warm-up. England take on Malta this afternoon in what could be possibly the most boring game in the history of the national game itself. Scotland beat them 5-1 last month. Anything less than about 8-0 will be seen as a failure for Gareth Southgate, won't it? 08717 22 3344. Meanwhile, Wayne Rooney and the new manager have been talking to their accountants all morning about some money they owe to the taxman. Great preparation for a game at Wembley, eh? Also coming up on the show, we'll be talking to Grammy Award-winning record producer Steve Lillywhite, and we'll have a few tales of the unexpected as well, and maybe a mention of Bobcat Bob. You're listening to the two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on talkSPORT. This is talkSPORT. We are the two Mikes, and this, of course, is the warm-up extended by an hour today because we're in the middle of an international break.
Yes.
England playing Malta couldn't be any more boring, could it? Good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Good morning, Mike. I don't think we should actually, herald this game as being a boring game. It's not a boring game. I think it's going to be a very, very fascinating game.
Fascinating.
I do. Look, it's Gareth Southgate's first game,
yeah.
OK? He's putting out an 11. Theo Walcott's in top form,
yeah.
and he's going to be a sensation in my view.
Is he going to start with Theo Walcott?
He's definitely going to start with Theo Walcott as well. Did you see the headline in the Times? Sterling is now worth less than €1.
Yes, I know. What's that all about?
What did I say about Raheem Sterling?
What is that all about?
It's nothing to do with Raheem Sterling.
It's nothing to do with Raheem Sterling. Yes, exactly. So don't try and make a point that makes you look good when in fact it's a completely different point.
Exactly. But the point is, I do not want to start this show by telling people we're going to wet blanket the England-Malta game. We're not. I think it'll be fantastic. Well, I'm not.
You can do what you like. I'm saying it's going to be boring.
Well, you see, that says a lot about yourself.
What does it say?
What it says about yourself is that basically you're a... what's the word I can... I was going to say
a bad word.
No, exactly. I was going to call you a carmelian because half the time...
A what?
A carmelian.
A carmelian?
Come on.
What do you mean a chameleon?
A chameleon.
It's not a carmelian.
Because half the time you're trying to
big
yourself...
It's a car that changes colour.
Big yourself up as a great supporter of football, and half the time you're trying to put people down.
Hey, by the way, talking about chameleons, you know what I got last night?
What?
A frog. I found a frog in the garden.
Really?
Yeah.
You live in the country, don't you?
Yeah, but I mean, you very rarely see frogs.
Well, I have to say, so what happened?
I picked him up and stroked him for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
A little frog?
Yeah, it was really sweet.
Really?
It was a really good moment for me.
Were you with your two boys?
No, it was dark. It was about midnight.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So your boys were in bed. You were out on the bladderation trail.
I went outside for a cigarette.
Yeah. How did you find a frog in the dark?
Well, I just saw this thing moving because we've got a light, motion detector light that comes on when you go out.
Yeah.
And I saw this thing that I thought was moving because it was on the grass.
Yes.
I wasn't absolutely sure what it was.
Yes.
And I looked down and I shone a light on it. It was this little frog.
And
green with little black spots.
It didn't jump off or...
It tried to jump off, but then I made it jump into my hand. And it felt really kind of quite weird.
Wow. Well, that's
anyway, it's just my moment in the country.
No, nice man meets nature moment. That's very good. But let's get back to the game.
Which I'll send out later.
Let's get back to the game.
Yeah.
You are a curmudgeonly individual when it comes to your attitude to this game.
No, I don't. Listen, I'm a great defender of football. I love the Premier League.
Are you excited about the fact that a New England manager is turning a team out at Wembley for the first time?
Gareth Southgate is about exciting as 4-day-old porridge.
No, I'm sorry. You're being really, really unfair and negative here, and I'm not having it.
I mean, he's actually gone up in my estimation slightly because it now looks as if he's been avoiding tax, which makes him slightly more interesting than anybody else that I've ever seen anybody associated with Gareth Southgate doing.
Can I tell you what's happened? Because we're going to talk about this later in this hour.
Yes, we are.
It's a 3-hour show, but towards the end of this hour, I'll talk about it. Gareth Southgate is highlighted on the front of one newspaper this morning. Yeah. Wayne Rooney, the England captain, is highlighted on another. And a lot
it's the same story, isn't it?
It is the same sort of story with different companies. But basically, I can tell you this because, of course, I have an interest in politics as well as football.
Well, you also have an interest in tax avoidance, don't you?
Yeah, I do, actually. Yeah, that's absolutely true. But
I'm surprised you're not on the front page of the Times, actually involved in the same scheme.
I think it's no coincidence that the Tory party conference took place this week.
Yes.
Mrs May is now the Prime Minister. We're going to clamp down on these people.
You think she's asked for a couple of scapegoats?
Well, they look like scapegoats to me because, look, we'll get into it a little bit later in the show, but without a shadow of a doubt, the people mentioned in these stories are very big names, Wayne Rooney, Gareth Southgate, England manager. And all they did was try and properly use and invest money, which went wrong due to the schemes they were investing in. Nothing to do with them whatsoever.
Right.
They changed the rules.
Well, except the story says, that as far as Wayne Rooney's side of it is concerned, that he was able to avoid paying any tax on his £4 million a year income for 4 years.
Not so.
Well, that's what the story says.
The story may say that, and that might be their interpretation. But my interpretation of that is it was an absolutely proper and right decision for Wayne Rooney's investors.
So you're defending this action, are you?
I'm defending Wayne Rooney because I think it's terrible to highlight Wayne Rooney as being a chap here who might have done something wrong. Wayne Rooney's only a part of the jigsaw. People look after Wayne Rooney's money, and they have a responsibility to make sure that they protect that money.
Yeah, but that's always the possible out for everybody, isn't it? If you are a responsible citizen, you are responsible for your own taxes, you are responsible for talking to your accountant, and you can say to your accountant, look, I don't want to get involved in any schemes which might actually come back and bite me on the backside.
I totally agree.
So please don't put my money anywhere which is likely to embarrass me.
I totally agree.
Which he obviously didn't do.
I totally agree, but what's not fully explained this morning is that the rules under which that money was invested many years ago were suddenly changed overnight.
Yes, I get that.
They were changed overnight. So if you were driving down the road at talkSPORT Towers here and you said, I'm doing 39 miles an hour because it's a 40 area, but then tomorrow...
It would be a 30 area.
But then tomorrow you got done because they said, oh no, overnight we changed the speed limit to 20.
Well, without telling you.
Without telling you, then you'd be in trouble.
Well, there is an element of that.
There is
if you're making £4 million a year, I think you ought to pay a little bit of tax. You shouldn't be trying to avoid paying any at all.
Listen, the responsibilities for people who earn huge amounts of money in this country are absolutely clear.
Well, of course I'd expect you to defend the wealthy. The people who you admire the most.
No, I'm not defending the wealthy. I'm defending what's right. And what's right is that you meet your responsibilities.
What's right is that people pay their fair share of tax.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And that doesn't appear to have been the case.
No, I'm sorry, you're absolutely wrong. He has paid absolutely his fair share of tax. So has Gareth Southgate. So have a lot of other footballers. So have people like Anton Deck who've been involved in these schemes.
Yes.
They have paid absolutely their fair share of tax.
As has Gary Barlow.
Yes, I'm sure he has as well.
They've all apologised, all these people, though, haven't they? And said, we're terribly sorry we made a mistake.
When you earn huge amounts of money, you have a responsibility to make sure that money is handled properly.
Yeah.
You put it into the hands of advisors. Yeah. Advisors seek government advice. Yeah. The government gives you advice, and then the government changes that advice and they don't tell you.
Yeah.
Gordon Brown,
right? But
let's name names.
The overarching scenario, though, is that these are people who have been putting the money in places so as they can avoid paying tax. That's the bottom line.
Gordon Brown, let's name names, was a chancellor.
You're just going to ignore that, are you?
Well, I don't think it's relevant to the point I'm trying to make.
Okay.
Gordon Brown, the Chancellor, had a pensions for rich people because he knew they were paying huge amounts of tax.
Yeah.
That is why he had what's called soft touch policy on city regulation. City being the City of London.
The iron fist and the velvet glove, as they used to know him.
Exactly. And he also had soft touch on other things. He encouraged these people to get into these sort of schemes because he wanted them to keep earning big money without fear in this country. And then the schemes went wrong. The people didn't go wrong. The schemes went wrong. And now they're picking up the pieces.
Right.
The one thing that is obvious to me is that when these guys put that money in other people's hands, it's so that they free themselves up to concentrate on what they do. Well, in Anton Deck's case, they present shows. In Wayne Rooney's case, he leads England. And there is no suggestion whatsoever.
And that's another story we should talk about.
There is no suggestion whatsoever that he's walking around day in, day out, worrying about my tax affairs. He doesn't. He asks people to do that.
I'm sure
he concentrates on England.
I'm sure the £3.5 million that they're now demanding from him, he will be able to take out of his back pocket. I mean, that's not the issue. But the issue is, on the front page...
Sorry, why do you say that?
Because he's obviously got £3.5 million lying around somewhere, hasn't he?
Why are you so dismissive and mealy-mouthed about people who are wealthy?
I'm not at all
Wayne
dismissive.
Rooney's wealthy because he's got a unique talent.
Well, he's wealthy because he's way overpaid.
I'm sure it's
Wayne
money
Rooney
in his back pocket.
is paid a ludicrous amount of money for performing in what I can only describe as a pretty poor way for the best part of the last few months. And the idea that somehow he is the new era leading England out against Malta is an absolute joke.
Well, you think it's a joke. I'm saying he's paid what the markets say he's worth and has been worth over the last 10 years.
But everybody knows that it's way overinflated and he's way overpaid. £300,000 a week. I mean,
sorry,
whose fault
is that? Whose fault is that?
Well, it's any number of people's fault.
Hang on.
But the point is, there's no point in saying that, Wayne Rooney makes all this money because he's such a brilliant footballer. He makes all this money because he happens to be playing football at a time when footballers are paid extortionately ridiculous wages.
Yeah, because they have a unique talent. If some broadcasting
I don't know what he's done with it because he doesn't show much of it these days.
Hang on, if some...
I've seen the time, by
What a ridiculous statement. If some broadcasting organisation came along along and said...
Oh, this is the old chestnut everybody comes up with, right?
No, Mike Graham.
Here's £3 million quid, will you go somewhere else?
We think you're worth £1 million a year. Will you take it? Would you turn around and say, I don't think I'm worth $1 million, I don't think I will take it. No, thank you.
If it involved me working on my own and without you, I'd do it for about 25 quid of a raise.
See, you're trying to wriggle out of this now, aren't you? Eh?
No, I'm not. Of course I would go and get paid more money. Why wouldn't I? Yeah. That's not my point.
Yeah. Well, as far as I know...
But if somebody came to me and said, I'm going to give you £300,000 a week to play football once a week, not very well, I would also jump at the chance.
What about if you played it very well?
If I played it very well, I'd ask for $600,000.
Yeah, well, he's played most of his football very well indeed.
Well, how about this, right? The FA, who have since tried to run away at 100 miles an hour from the stench of corruption from Sam Allardyce, right?
Sorry, we've been reading a bit of Macbeth this morning, have we, before we come to work? Eh?
The foul smell.
The foul stench of corruption.
Well, look at this headline. England's new manager and tax dodge firm. I mean, they put Gareth Southgate in charge. They thought this guy's whiter than white, cleaner than clean. Yeah. He's never even, got a parking ticket, this guy in his life. Turns out he's just as bad as the rest of them.
He's as white as white.
Well, he isn't.
He has had nothing to do with it, to our advisor. Look, the other guy I want to talk about today is my favourite manager, Bob Bradley.
Bob.
I was saying overnight, I pushed the envelope.
He's amazing, isn't he? I tell you what, he's going to be great.
I want respect.
You come to my house. You ask me to do murder. Yeah, no, we're going to hear from Bobcat Bob coming up in a little while. We call him that, of course, because he used to manage a team in Ohio called the Ohio Bobcats, who apparently don't exist anymore. But he's down at Swansea.
Well,
he gave
I'm
his first
surprised if Bob is a manager.
Exactly. We're also going to have a 1 minute moan coming up a little bit later. Steve Lillywhite's going to join us from the Far East because he's got some news about a new Rolling Stones album coming out. We are the two mics. This is talkSPORT.
The American side I can cover in 30 seconds, and then we can push that out the door. Okay? This bit about Pioneer and all the rest, I'm not an American manager, I'm a football manager. So now, when I come here, I realize that there's not one person in Swansea that could care less what anybody in the United States thinks at the moment. Okay? They care about their football club, and man, I'm here to give everything I have for the fans, for the club, and I couldn't be more excited about the chance.
Here, got you now, boy.
Bobcat Bob. He's got a great turn of phrase, and I mean, as I've said many times, even though you think he's going to be a disaster, I think he's going to be brilliant. I think he's going to be great for Swansea, he's great for the Premier League, and he's a character.
I think he'll have incredible difficulty adjusting to the Premier League. It's such a huge change from the French second division, and it's a huge change from managing America.
But he hasn't just managed in the French second division. He's managed the national side in Egypt, he's managed in MLS, he's managed in American national team,
but also,
in the World Cup.
It was marvellous seeing him overnight talking about the relationship with Jurgen Klinsmann, because Jurgen Klinsmann came in. Bob was suggesting that Jurgen might have done a better, sort of.
But he was a bit confused.
For the dark arts before he got the job.
Well, he said that he believes that Jurgen Klinsmann kind of forced him out as a pundit,
That's
and
right.
then got the job. But then he said after that,
didn't get enough respect.
But then after that, he was quite fair to him. So I mean, it's all very odd, isn't it?
I thought it was great when he was asked what.
Well, listen, I for one cannot wait for his first game at Swansea.
Well,
right? Because if he loses it, I mean, can you imagine what he's going to be like?
Well,
if he loses a game, because he's clearly a man who's on the edge.
Well, my first question to him would be, how did it go today, Bob? Well, no, I wouldn't be talking American. How did it go today, Bob? And I heard him say last night, I'm the sort of coach that pushes the envelope.
But if he pushes the envelope and he loses, it's not going to be very pleasant for him.
Exactly.
But anyway, we'll come back to Bobcat Bob, because one of the things I'm looking forward to, apart from seeing him managing his first game, is the return of the Premier League, like I was saying.
Absolutely.
The international break for me, I'm afraid, is like watching paint dry.
Yeah.
And Steve, who's a Liverpool fan, I think is going to agree with me. Steve, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
It's so lovely to talk to you two guys. I usually listen to you with the earphones in at 2 a.m. when she's asleep next to me.
Well, you can listen. You can listen to us all day.
She says, "What are you laughing at?" I said, "Just go back to sleep." All I want to tell you, and you can shoot me down in flames if you don't agree with me.
Yeah.
I don't like this 14-day breaks to the season. The season was 3 weeks old. We had a 14-day break. Yeah. We've now had another 14-day break, and we're going to have another one before Christmas. I'm a selfish Liverpool fan. Yeah. I'm worried about Coutinho going to South America. I'm worried about Firmino going to South America, come back with injuries, come back with long flights, jet lag, all the rest of it. But the main thing is, I asked 5 fellas this morning in the gym. No one knew we were playing. No one knew the kick-off time, and no one was interested.
Yeah, Steve, listen, you're absolutely right. It comes too early in the season to start off with, doesn't it? We just get the Premier League going, and then it stops again, and then it stops again. I totally agree with that. And you're absolutely right about the quality of the opposition. The only thing I was saying earlier in the this, Steve, is that I've campaigned for years for the fact that San Marino, who are playing this weekend, play Northern Ireland, aren't they? And Malta really shouldn't be in the international calendar at all.
No way at all. I say to myself, why are they there? Because this no-mark opposition puts fellas off. If you don't win 13-0, it's not a game. Because these guys are just not talented enough. Carpenters, bricklayers, taxi drivers. Yeah. You've heard all the stories. We've got a quality team there with England.
But as also, as you say, Steve, I mean, you worry about the players getting injured, but you also wonder, and I'm not disparaging anyone for doing it, how on earth do they sell out Wembley for this?
Exactly. I can't understand it. There must be a lot of Japanese and American tourists around Wembley tonight because no one else is going to go. I was saying to fellas this morning, and they all said to me, why are we doing this? It's like self-defeating all the time.
Yeah, but Steve, hang on. Did you hear the show earlier on? I would normally agree with what you're saying, but on this occasion, this interests me enormously, and I'll be watching the game intently because it's Gareth Southgate's first game. He's the interim England manager who could become the full-time, long-term England manager.
Oh, great.
No, stop being so disparaging.
Why?
Because just shut up and let me tell Steve
what I'm thinking.
Don't get so wound up about.
Why are you defending Gareth Southgate? You don't even like him.
I am defending the England football team, and I'm saying that I think it's a great opportunity for Gareth Southgate to put a few ideas into practice, right, in a game that doesn't really matter because we're going to win it by a multiplicity number of goals. Now, the thing is, Steve, I mean, for instance, Theo Walcott, right? He's just hit bang top form. This is an opportunity for Gareth Southgate to give Theo Walcott his head against a team that aren't going to provide much opposition. So from that point of view...
So what's the point? Is what my point is.
From that point of view, this is a useful game, Steve, for the future of the England team.
Well, I thought you were saying the friendlies, but my mates all reminded me, no, they're all qualifiers. All these games in South America, all the games... So there is a bit of merit to it, so it detracts from my argument.
Well, actually, in a way, funnily enough, Steve, when we talk to Tim Vickery over in Brazil, it's the opposite effect over there. When they have internationals there, they love it because all their top players from Europe come back to play in South America. So for them, it's a legitimately interesting situation, right? But for us...
The present England manager, we used to call him sick note, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right,
and that wasn't a very nice thing to say. But, the English management structure, especially after Sam Allardyce, they remind me of the UKIP management right now.
Yeah, right.
Everyone's punching everyone.
Absolutely.
But some people deserve to be punched and some don't.
Yeah, that's never a truer word spoken on a Saturday morning by Porky. He's come close a couple of times. What about this, Steve? Maybe there's a load of tax inspectors turning up at Wembley this afternoon, and that's why they've managed to sell so many tickets.
Wouldn't you love it? The guy that hasn't had a good game for 3 years for me, Rooney, is getting whatever it is, a week. And the thing is, it's this scourge now, the tax, and they're going after people. And all those guys who were...
Yeah, but it's the politics of envy, that, Steve. That is the politics of envy.
Can you not let Steve finish?
Of course it is. Of course it is. Well, the thing is, tell me anyone that isn't envious of a guy earning $300,000 a week.
Yeah, well, if that's what the labour market says your labour is worth, of course you're going to have people knocking on your door saying, I'd like a bit of what you've got.
Just wait till Jeremy Corbyn gets in. He won't be making that kind of money then. Steve, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Steve.
Steve, they're backing me up that international football is a load of old
Just giving me the worst nightmare I've ever had.
What's that?
Jeremy Corbyn getting in, eh?
You'd have to emigrate.
Oh, you mad?
You'd have to go and live in one of those tax shelter islands, like Malta, in fact. You know, Malta is one of those places. I've got some facts for you here about Malta.
Oh, really?
How about this? They drive on the left in Malta because it was a British colony for more than 150 years.
Well, of course it was.
Up until 1964. But how about this one, right? It's got 2 Guinness Book World Records to its name, right?
Okay.
I bet you can't imagine what they are.
Go on.
First of all, it hosted the largest gathering of people dressed as storybook characters, 453, which was achieved by the Chiswick House School in San Juan in March 2011.
Okay, that's
Isn't that interesting?
A pointless fact, but that's the next one.
The other one is, how about this? Malta is devoid of forests and rivers.
Yeah.
You can't find any of them across its 7 islands. There's 7 islands, right, in Malta.
That's
you
right.
didn't know that.
Gozo.
What?
Gozo.
What are you calling me?
No. Gozo's the next biggest one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Anyway, they've got no forests or rivers.
Yeah,
Isn't that weird?
Well, neither has Mallorca, is it?
What?
Neither has Mallorca.
Yeah, Mallorca's got trees.
It's got trees. It hasn't got forests, though.
Well, I don't know.
Name one forest on Mallorca.
What the new forest? Well, I don't know what the forests are called in Mallorca.
Well, you went there on holiday, you
should
take more interest in it.
But I've driven in parts of Mallorca where they have lots and lots of trees, which you might call a forest.
Malta has a place in the heart of all British people because it was awarded the George Cross as an island during the Second World War. Because
Can you award an island a George Cross?
Well, they did. They awarded Malta the George Cross. I'm telling you. And the reason was that Malta was under siege by the Germans. Not siege. When you barricade all the ports and all that. It was blockade. It was blockaded. Thank you very much. stretch. It was blockaded by the Germans to try and starve it out, and bombed by the Germans. And of course, in the end, the Royal Navy went and blew the Germans out the water and liberated it. But they were very brave people.
Marvellous. How about this from Dean? I have to agree with MG about the England game. I'm more interested in any Spurs players not getting injured, which I think is true.
Yeah. I totally agree with that, by the way, that to take your players away from your camp for 14 days, it's not 14, it's about 8, I think, or 9 in the end. Well, no, it might be, because they've got the second game next Tuesday and you get
10
back.
10 days, isn't it?
10 days, 10, 11, 12 days, perhaps, yes, absolutely right. Is a burden on the clubs, and the burden becomes greater the higher you pay your players. So, the insurance policies and all that, they get injured and all that is a concern. However, I will continue to tell you during the 3 hours of this show that for once, this game against a lowly footballing nation, not a lowly nation, a lowly footballing nation, Malta, is worthwhile because it's the start of a new era for England. And I'm glad it's against a team you wouldn't consider to be a real threat.
Well, again, we will consider this new era idea, but we've got to stop talking for a moment because the idea of Gareth Southgate being in charge doesn't seem like a new era to me. The fact that he's going to put Wayne Rooney in as captain doesn't seem like a new era to me.
No, but Wayne Rooney is the captain, Mike.
It doesn't matter. The way that they're playing...
What do you expect him to do? Do you choose a new captain?
I expect him to choose a new captain and say to Wayne Rooney, sorry, mate, your time is up. It's time to wander off the international stage.
Ridiculous idea I've ever heard.
Well, even Wayne Rooney says he's not good enough to play for England anymore. He said that earlier in the week.
No, he did not.
Yes, he did.
No, he did not.
We haven't got time to debate it now.
He said his form had dipped and he understood why he hadn't been first choice at Manchester United. He never made reference to England, believe me.
No, he did indeed. I'll find it for you.
Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Way out in the water, see it swimming.
This is talkSPORT. We are the two mics. There's loads coming up, including the 1 minute moan a little bit later on. Last week, in fact, the 1 minute moan was generally believed to have been won by me because my 1 minute moan was all about Tower Bridge closing for 3 months.
Yeah, but that's
which has
so
been in the news.
London-centric.
No, it's not. It's been in the
so
news.
London-centric.
No, it has been in the news all week, right?
We have millions of listeners out there in the finest shires in Britain, which are mostly speaking, in my view, north of the M25.
And around the world.
And around the world.
But it was far more relevant in many, many ways. And in fact, our producer Ross has already given me this judgment. Far more relevant than yours, which was all about the Deutsche Bank.
Yes, that's right.
And whether or not the Deutsche Bank was going to collapse
and
bury all of your savings with it.
The Deutsche Bank might still collapse, and if it does, Europe collapses, OK? So, you've got a political situation there which could ruin everybody.
So it didn't happen.
And you're worried about is 7 more minutes in going on a new route to get to talkSPORT Towers from your hovel in Surrey Quays.
How about this from Martello? Porky again trots out his politics of envy line. There's more to life than wealth. He's missing out on humanity.
I totally agree. But people who actually achieve things in life shouldn't then be persecuted by mad, and I mean sort of, crazy politicians who simply don't know what they're doing. I mean, by the way, we have to make it absolutely clear when we're talking about this that, you kept going on about tax avoidance schemes and all that. It wasn't a tax avoidance scheme. It was deferment. The whole idea...
tax avoidance. That's what it is.
It's not, Mike.
Don't start using words to get around the truth.
I am telling you, man, I know these things.
So what does deferment mean?
Deferment means that what you're doing is you are planning your financial structure some 12 or even 15 years ahead.
No, deferment means putting something off until later, right?
No, not
That's what deferment means.
No.
Yes, it does.
It does not.
And he was not putting something off until later. He was avoiding paying the tax that he was due to pay that particular year.
Deferment means...
I'm telling you the definition of deferment, you plank.
But you're not telling me the definition of tax deferment because you don't know the tax rules. Gordon Brown wrote the most complicated...
Well, I'm sure your tax affairs are much more complicated than mine.
Gordon Brown wrote the most complicated book of tax rules in the history of the Western world, which nobody could understand. Hang on a sec. Yeah. Which nobody could understand. And for that reason, experts were needed for high earners to see what they could do with their money. And deferment was a scheme which was backed and supported by Gordon Brown, he was Chancellor. And then somebody changed the rules in the middle of the night.
People listening to this don't care about the fact that people who are rich like you are getting away with not paying the fair share of tax.
Well, I don't think you should persecute the rich. And I bet you Steve Lillywhite will tell you the same.
Well, let's talk to Steve Lillywhite, our very good friend who's out of the country at the moment. Steve, a very good morning to you. Terribly sorry to keep you waiting.
It's okay, boys. I didn't realise we have one left and one right wing. I thought you were both right wing.
Well, it's not right or left. It's doing the right thing, Steve. You would agree with me, wouldn't you? Because you mix with people like Bono. You mix with people and have made people into international superstars. Should they then be persecuted because they're high earners? Should they then be persecuted, Steve?
I think the trouble is, this is a lot different conversation, but it's sad that people don't feel like they want to contribute to society.
Exactly right. So, in fact, Steve is a man with a conscience. You don't. You spend your life trying to avoid paying tax. That's what you just told me.
How dare you?
That's what you just told me.
How dare you accuse me? Let's talk about music,
Let's talk about the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones moved to France to avoid paying tax, didn't they?
That was when it was 90%.
That's
that
right.
Was during the 70s.
That's right.
Yeah, that was a crazy time. Yes,
it really was. Now, what do you make of them going back to their roots and deciding to do an album of covers of a load of blues songs? And have you heard any of it? What's the industry gossip about it?
Yes, I have heard. I have heard some bits and pieces. And on the one hand, you've got this. You know, it's very, very good that they're not choosing the obvious songs. They're going back and choosing some really cool songs done by their idols. But I'm afraid when these songs were originally done, they were done by poor black people. What you're getting now is very rich white people. And to be honest, it sounds a little bit like a bad status quo.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, it's not. I don't think it's that good. I mean, I think for the blues, you know, when the Stones were young and playing the blues, as you know, Mike, you know, the blues is not so much about the technique of playing. It's the thing that comes from your life.
Yeah.
And you know, these guys live in mansions. They fly in private jets.
Yes.
To play the blues, you need to live the blues. You know, and,
would you agree with me, Steve? Would you agree with me that Mick Jagger and Keith Richards have not written a decent song for 45 years?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank
I
you.
produced an album of theirs in 1986, and the hit song
Right.
from that was Harlem Shuffle.
Oh, that was a great song, but it wasn't. It was a great song, but they didn't write it.
No, it was by Bob and Earl, I think, originally,
Right.
and it was a good version. But you know, I suppose you could say the Stones really were just a cover band. I mean, I think probably Brian Jones was the real clever person in the Stones. So when Brian Jones left, as you said, Mike, you know, I don't think, you know, they've had the odd good song. You know, Under Cover of the Night may have been their last good song.
That was a great song.
I quite like Doom and Gloom, I have to say. I said this to Porky the other day, but he'd never heard of it.
Yeah, I liked Under Cover of the Night. Anyway, Steve, let's get on to important matters, please, because in a month's time we're doing a big show in Liverpool, the O2 Arena. I am being brought...
The O2 Academy, actually.
The O2 Academy in Liverpool. I'm then being transported back overnight because I have radio work to do here. The next
what do you
day,
mean you're being transported back overnight?
But then I should be
in an ambulance.
Excuse me, yeah, in a hearse. I shall be needed at Stamford Bridge at 5 o'clock that day. It's November the 5th, Bonfire Day, because my lot, Everton, are going to be down here to pummel your lot, Chelsea, into the ground. Are you going to be there?
Well, I will not be there, but as I mean,
fair weather fan
at the moment. November, no, and I had my season tickets. I only gave them up this season. My family would always use them when I wasn't going, you know. But that's going to be a great game. I mean, you know, Everton hot and cold at the moment, really.
No.
And,
yeah, they are.
No. I would say hot and a bit tepid, but getting hot again. We're going to massacre Manchester City.
Well, you know, if the boy Lukaku plays well, you know, you've got a chance.
Well, hang on. Did you see his goal?
Would you mind letting Steve speak for 5 minutes?
See Lukaku's goal?
Yeah, never mind that. Let Steve speak for 5 minutes. He's only on for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, go on.
Go on, Steve.
No. Lukaku is a fantastic player. We wanted him back. He sort of really is a Chelsea player, to be honest, Mike.
Lukaku.
You know, he plays with the Chelsea style, and you know, he is the real next Diego. Not Diego.
Lukaku.
Oh, my God.
Would you stop that? I mean, I'm really sorry, Steve. He's like an overexcited chimp. You know why? Because he's really excited about England taking on Malta this afternoon, which I find bizarre for a start.
God.
I mean, are you even going to bother watching it?
No, it's really sad, isn't it? That who cares really? I mean, of course we're going to beat Malta, but then again we said we were going to beat Iceland. So I suppose no, but we will beat Malta. It's a team of cops and taxi drivers, and but it doesn't really get
exactly.
Me excited.
But that's the point. And what about Gareth? I mean, the idea that Gareth Southgate is a great idea has to be one of the most boring appointments of all time, doesn't it?
Well, who would you have appointed?
Well, excuse me, I'm asking Steve.
Yeah,
Steve, what do you reckon?
I think so, but he is an interim coach.
Of course, he is.
For the next 4 games, but if he can't win the next 4 games, then it's it's ridiculous.
I think Scotland are going to beat England.
I don't.
What's a ridiculous statement?
No, I don't think we will. And I know you're Scottish, Mike, but and you're on the.
Well, you don't say it with such ordure in your voice, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, well, it is something to feel sorry for somebody.
I mean, he said it like he was almost like sort of grimacing as he said it. It's disgraceful.
Steve, who's going to be the next great band that's going to rock the rock world? If you see what I mean. Come on, you've got your finger on the pulse. I bet you're hiding somebody in a cupboard somewhere.
No, I think bands are on the way out.
On the way out?
Bands are difficult.
Didn't the guy at EMI say that about the Beatles?
Yes, but technology has always ruled the art form, Mike. And the technology now is much more conducive to dance music.
Yeah.
The technology back in the 60s was conducive to 2 guitars, bass and drums. Now the technology is all about the beats, the electronic bass, the excitement of the pulse.
Oh.
And the trouble is bands don't sound as good. And that's the trouble. Back in the early 80s, there were some wonderful bands coming out. But I think the technology just makes for... the young kids now are not joining bands.
Right.
If they're making music at all, they're making it on their own.
Really?
They're not getting together. So, young kids used to get together in a garage and play together.
That's right.
But now they get on their computers and they make beats.
Wow.
It's the wonderful evolving of the music business.
Yeah, I'm going to take Porky into a studio one day and introduce him to an Apple Mac and see what he can come up with.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Look,
I prefer an apple crumble, but there you go.
And, with some vanilla ice cream.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah.
I bet you missed that. Anyway, listen, Steve, delightful to talk to you.
Great to speak to you, mate.
I'm terribly sorry that you
Thank
could
you
barely get a word in edgewise because of being very overexcitable, Mr. Parry.
Not at all.
But have a lovely afternoon, and we'll speak to you very soon. Steve Lillywhite, big Chelsea fan. He's not that interested in England playing Malta either. You see, everybody who's important in the world is not interested in watching it.
Hang on, he's a tax exile. He lives in the Far East.
He's not a tax exile.
Well, he
lives abroad. Yeah, it doesn't make him a tax exile.
Yeah, well, you're going on about all these rich people. Your mate Steve Lillywhite, one of the world's most successful ever record producers, doesn't live in this country.
Yeah, but he pays tax in this country if he works in this country, which is what you're supposed to do.
Like the footballers do, honestly.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
When they're not deferring it.
Did
Would
you
mind looking at the time?
Did you see Lukaku's goal?
Yes, I saw Lukaku's goal.
Lukaku.
Yeah, shame he didn't score one against Bournemouth, isn't it? Shame he didn't score one against Crystal Palace. Shame he hasn't been scoring goals for Everton, isn't it?
And by the way, Seamus, our right fullback, captain of Ireland.
Yeah, all right.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, all right. Don't worry about that. We talked about that on Friday. This is talkSPORT. This is talkSPORT. We are the two mics on the warm-up. England taking on Malta, of course, at Wembley. It would have been Sam Allardyce's first game at Wembley, but sadly, it isn't because he's gone. And now we've got Gareth Southgate instead, who, it turns out, is not quite as whiter than white as everybody thought, because he's on the front pages of some of the papers, apparently owing the taxman a few quid because he was deferring some of his pay.
Quite seriously, I think you're wrong to say that, because Gareth Southgate...
Well, look at the headline.
Gareth Southgate took advice from advisors in the same way that Wayne Rooney did.
It doesn't matter.
And this is...
Ignorance is no excuse.
I'm sorry, but it is not a question of ignorance is no excuse. When these schemes were set up, they were set up under a different set of rules and regulations to the ones that exist now.
You can make as many excuses as you like.
I'm not making excuses.
Yes, you are.
Mike, I am not trying to mislead our listeners, that's all. I am telling you that what these guys have got caught up in is something over which they had no control whatsoever.
That's rubbish.
No, they had no control.
They had control because
they
they could have opted out of it. They could have look, for example, I have a financial advisor, right? And he came to me a few years ago and said, do you want to put your money into one of these film schemes, right? Because you're quite right to say that they were set up quite legally and quite properly by lots of investment firms. However, I took a look at it, right? And it was very clear when you read through the various papers that they were never going to make any movies, right? The reason it was set up was it was supposed to provide money for the British film industry. It was meant to be to supply sort of, credibility and liquidity so that people could make more movies and have more British success in Hollywood, right? Yeah. But everybody knew that none of these films were going to be made and you could take the loss and you wouldn't have to pay tax. Well, so when you say they have no control, they could have done what I did, which was to say, actually, no thanks, I'm not going to do that.
Okay. Well, okay, you're more clever than these people. They earn millions and millions and millions of pounds.
I'm not more clever. I just don't allow people to take my money and then go, oh, I didn't know what they were doing with it.
But the one fact I'm trying to get over into your head, which you won't seem to accept, is that when these schemes were set up, they were set up under a different set of rules to those that exist now. They got changed in the middle of the night.
I know that.
Well, if they got changed in the middle of the night, how can you blame the guys?
Because
how can you blame them?
What you're defending, right, and what you seem to be missing in my point is why they've chosen to avoid paying tax. I'm saying they should pay their fair share of tax. There are plenty of perfectly reasonable ways of reducing your tax bill without going through these kind of dodgy firms, which is what it's being called in the Mirror.
They weren't dodgy firms when it was set up.
It's called tax dodge firm.
Well, they can call it what they want. They weren't dodgy when they set them up. As for paying taxes, I mean, not only do players like do people like Gareth Southgate and Wayne Rooney pay taxes, they pay more. I mean, for instance, Wayne Rooney had a testimonial at the start of this season. It's great to see him in an Everton shirt again. It was Everton versus Manchester United. As I understand it, because, I have a lot of friends at Everton Football Club, and of course they were the organisers of it.
Surprises me.
Nearly £2 million that was raised that night has gone to a charity.
Well, I'm very happy for it. I'm glad he's doing that.
Well, don't you think that the guy deserves a bit of credit for that?
He should get credit for that.
Of course he should. That's not really the attitude and behaviour of a man who's trying to avoid paying money over to places where not only is he obligated, but to places where he's not obligated, but wants to.
Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. But first of all, it's all very well to say that, but the money was not his. The money that came in from a testimonial, which is quite a ludicrous idea. Well, it's not his.
It's his testimonial.
Yeah, but that's a ridiculous idea. We've had this conversation before. Players that make the kind of money he makes don't need testimonials. It's good that he gave the money to charity. Yeah. It's also not taxable. So, don't try and paint him as some kind of great saint.
Well, I think when you start, accusing people who give £2 million to charity as not being, very responsible.
I'm saying I'm glad that he did it.
He
Let me read you
all the praise in
We've
the
heard
world.
too much of you this hour because we've got lots and lots of complaints from people saying things like, how many Red Bulls has Porky had this morning, says Wayne. We got another one from somebody who said, that was a great interview Porky did with Porky. It's a shame that Steve Lillywhite managed to get a few words in between.
That's a bit harsh, that. Yeah. All I'm trying to do is lay out the facts.
Here's another one. I thought Porky's interview of Porky was excellent. Steve Lillywhite just got in the way. John says, England were guaranteed to beat Iceland. Look how that turned out. We need to stop thinking like this. England are horrendous.
No, they're not, and there's no way in the world they can lose against Malta at Wembley. So
don't put the Porky jinx on.
There's no way in the world it could happen. So we all know that.
How about Stephen? He says, well done, Porky, sticking up for us hard-working, high taxpayers. Hopefully, I'll be able to buy my new Porsche C4S next month.
That's a bit harsh.
Man of the people.
It's a bit harsh.
By the way, coming up in the next hour, I'm going to be asking you about the grovelling that you've been doing recently to Liam Gallagher. Why are you grovelling to him now?
I don't.
Yes, you have. I've got evidence. You
haven't got any evidence.
I'll be revealing it. We are the two mics. This is talkSPORT. This is talkSPORT. We are the two mics on the warm-up here with you until 2 o'clock. We've got an extra hour today because it's international break time, of course. England taking on Malta at 5 o'clock. You'll hear all about that later on talkSPORT. Now, Britney Spears, right? What do you think of Britney Spears?
Oops,
she's in the middle of...
I've done it again.
I don't want to hear you singing Britney Spears. Yeah. I'm asking you whether you like Britney Spears or not.
Well, I've only ever heard one record.
Making a bit of a comeback.
Is she?
Yeah.
I thought that she'd sort of I thought she had one record. Oops, I've done it again, and that was it, wasn't it?
Well, Hit Me Baby One More Time.
Hit Me Baby One More Time, yeah, okay. 2 records then.
She's actually done rather better than that, but she's on the comeback trail. But the reason we're playing that, right, is as I've told you, I'm going to tell you some interesting facts about Malta.
Okay.
Do you know that Britney Spears' great-great-grandfather was born in Malta?
No.
And his name was Edward Richard Portelli.
Really?
Yeah. Isn't that fascinating?
Well, that's a matter of great disinterest to me, yeah.
Really? And also, Malta has given the UK more points than anyone else in the Eurovision Song Contest.
Well,
how about that?
Yeah, well, that's good because, of course, no, we're very, very close. We're very, very close in terms of alliances with Malta, no doubt about it. They got the George Cross during the war. You keep saying,
They
tried to starve them out. They wouldn't have it.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. Now, Sharky says this: England are on their 3rd manager in 3 games with the tax revelations. Could it become 4 for 4?
No, because the tax revelations are not indicative of anything wrong having been done.
It's a bit embarrassing for the FA, though, isn't it?
Well, it's not embarrassing. What happened was, this week was the Tory party conference. Mrs May, the new Prime Minister, says we're going after those,
Theresa.
who... sorry?
Theresa.
What did I say?
You said Mrs May.
Well, the name is Mrs May.
Her name's Theresa May.
Well, I don't refer to the Prime Minister by a Christian name. I say Mrs. or Prime Minister May.
You call her Maggie Thatcher.
She's dead.
What's that got to do with it?
That's shown respect. And all I'm
so
saying
dead
is...
people you call them by their Christian name,
all I'm saying is she's rattled the old cage there, and a few of her, minions have gone around, let's find some famous names so we can jump on them. This is a country for not just the rich, but it's for the poor as well. That's all that's happened.
Yeah, we're for everyone, I think, is the
By the way,
slogan,
the guy who's written the story in the Times, who I don't think he knows very much about football, or he might do. I might be getting wrong there. But, I mean, to suggest, HMRC's assessment coincides with a dip in form.
Alexei Mostra's head of investigations.
Oh, he is, yeah.
Do you know what else has happened here? The old editor of the Times, who's a guy I know quite well, John Witherow, has gone, oi, the Telegraph have kicked everybody's backsides around here. Haven't we got an investigations team? Can you find some stories, please, and put them in the paper immediately?
Hey, Alexei, get me an investigation.
Alexei Monstrous.
But anyway, let me just finish this. You really interrupt me. Coincides with a dip in form by the player who's age 30, who has scored 1 goal in 8 games for club and country this season. What a load of utter nonsense. Do you think any footballer, once he crosses that white line, is thinking, now I wonder how my guys are getting on with that tax investigation that somebody told me about 3 years ago?
Well, he might be thinking about that.
So. Of course not.
I think Southgate will have been on the phone to his accountants this morning. And also,
rubbish.
Maybe Wayne's thinking, maybe I should have just stuck with those investments with Sam Allardyce in the North East and opened a few more boutique hotels with him.
Listen, when you have lives like these guys have, like Southgate has and like Wayne Rooney has, you compartmentalise your life. You have to.
Yeah.
And frankly, the biggest issue in all their lives is football, because without football, they wouldn't have the rest. So believe me, I know the psychology of compartmentalising your life.
Yeah,
when I walk into this studio and I'm working with you, everything else goes away. Everything has to.
Yes.
Because to concentrate on keeping you under control for 3 hours.
You've got so much to worry about, haven't you?
Concentrate on keeping you under control for 3 hours is what I focus on. And it's the deadly focus which makes people what they are.
Yes.
Rising to the top and all that.
But that's why you're so very, very good at bringing up facts from the past and names that people that you've forgotten. And when you are, God help us when you're not focused, if this is you being focused.
No.
How about this from Nath, who says, great show, chaps. If Porky's so confident in England win, is he going to donate a month's wages to charity if we draw or lose? And he says, by the way, great Porky to Porky interview.
Thank you very much indeed. No, that would be
even I can't envisage England not winning this.
Yeah, but it'd be a pathetic gesture, wouldn't it? Say, I'll donate a month's money if England lose.
Right.
England are not going to lose, and they're not going to draw. They're going to beat Malta comprehensively.
I'll tell you what you and I are going to do, though.
Yes.
You and I may have a little wager, although you have to bet responsibly, of course, at all times.
Yes.
But when England plays Scotland. How about that?
Yes, definitely we will. Yeah, definitely we will.
Okay.
No,
we might even have to make a little video for 2 Mics TV as well.
Yeah, we definitely will do that. And
I might get the old kilt out.
I will raise to the challenge there. Now, the other issue I want to talk about with the game today.
Hang on, before you do that,
of course,
because I mentioned that we were talking about pop stars. I want to get back to this Liam Gallagher creeping you've been doing, right?
I haven't done any creeping.
Liam Gallagher in the past, right, has had a few set twos with you on Twitter.
Yes.
Famously rerun when we do our live shows.
Well, that's right.
Because most of the things, the names that he's called you, we can't actually say on a family radio station.
They were pretty severe.
But I mean, one of the ones I can repeat is that he said that you were basically a bit of a crap Kenny Rogers.
Oh, that's a bit harsh, isn't
it? And a bit of a Noel freak.
Yes.
Anyway,
so why have you referred to it again?
Well, because I see that a few hours ago, in very early hours of the morning, actually, and maybe he's getting up early now to feed the ducks as well. 5 o'clock in the morning, he tweeted out, "Everyone says hi," and an LG with an X, right?
Yes.
Now I don't know whether that means that he's
that's
out.
Liam Gallagher love, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I don't know whether that's because he was out on the blooderation trail and just going to bed. Anyway, you say in response, right, instead of what you've previously said to him, which is stuff like, you're just a pub singer and you're not as talented as your brother and all that sort of stuff to wind him up.
Yeah.
You say, and I say hi as well. Good luck on the comeback trail. What's wrong with that? About?
What is wrong with that?
Well, it's completely volte-faced to all the things you've said to him in the past.
The last time I communicated with him, he was talking about, he was talking about the fact that Noel Gallagher, his brother, didn't want to reform Oasis.
Yes.
And he was fed up about it. And all I pointed out was that, well, Noel Gallagher is like a one-man Lennon McCartney writing songs which will, last historically forever.
Yeah.
And you just sung them. That's all I said. And then he got very angry about it.
Well, you were a bit more aggressive than that, has to be said.
Yeah, but I mean, that was a debate about his standing within the Oasis group and his relationship with his brother. If he's good enough to to get up one morning and say hi to everybody, what did he say? Hello or something?
He said everyone says hi.
Everyone says hi. Why shouldn't I respond and say, yeah, hi, Liam, and I hope the comeback trail is suiting you.
Yeah.
He did a huge interview in the Sunday Times last week, which is talking about the philosophy of life and relationship with his brother and all that kind of stuff. I wish him well. I hope he gets on. Now, I want to turn to the England game because there's one thing I want to say to you.
Okay.
In this very studio, about a year ago, was it, or something like that, there were a couple of the guys there from Fleet Street doing a Sunday afternoon show, and their Clash of the Titans.
Oh, yeah. You're doing another one of those tomorrow, aren't you?
I'm doing one tomorrow. You're absolutely right. Yeah, tomorrow afternoon.
The man who can't stop working.
No, in fact, that'll be interesting because you know what? It's me, right? Me, moi, journalist, broadcaster, communicator, and three.
Behemoth.
That's right, and three professional footballers.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, who are
Stuart Robson, Alvin Martin, Jason Cundy.
Right.
So,
So three people who know what they're talking about, plus you.
No, three people who have rather insular lives.
Insular?
Yeah.
I don't think you'll find Jason Cundy's life
in the football world, and me as an expansive one. Anyway, talking about this show last year, so, I get roundly turned on by one, so-called Fleet Street giant.
Who shall not be named.
He who shall not be named.
Yeah.
Telling me that when I expressed the view that Theo Walcott was the best England footballer, the most talented England footballer, the man who will take...
What, you mean better than Wayne Rooney?
Yes, at the time, definitely. The man who could take England to future glory and perhaps even one of these days lead England in a big way. Oh, I'm told that I know nothing about it, that, don't be mad. I came here to talk proper football, What are you talking about?
Right.
Well, I think you'll find now that Theo Walcott is actually the England player at the top of his form.
But you would have to say that's true now.
At the top of his form.
A year ago, it was not true. A year ago, he was still very disappointing. He was very much a player that you expected more from.
Yes.
And you always felt that he wasn't really quite fulfilling his potential.
A year ago, he was in and out of the Arsenal team. Yeah. He was frustrated that he wasn't starting in the Arsenal team. But if somebody who's employed to write about football all his life can't understand that could easily change within 12 months because Theo Walcott has the latent talent to make him the best, then I think that's a pretty poor thing.
Yes. Okay.
Right?
All right, fine.
I think Walcott will be sensational today.
It doesn't matter whether he's sensational today. That's my whole point. They're playing Malta. It makes no difference. You will have no lessons to learn by playing them. And as somebody quite rightly said earlier on talkSPORT on the Sports Breakfast, the problem at the moment for England is how they play against good teams.
Yeah, but the thing is...
They can beat Malta.
The thing is, the reason he'll be great today is because he's got huge self-confidence because his performances for Arsenal this season have been outstanding. It all comes together. It all comes together in one piece as a footballer at the top of his game. Okay?
Well, how about this from Jordan, which I think sums up the mood of the nation. He says, I think I found some 4-day-old porridge on my PJs today from my 5-month-old son. It's still more exciting than Gareth Southgate. How about that?
I don't know why people put out these loose and petty insults against the New England manager. The point is, the guy's got the job. It's a job which I think is second importance only to the Prime Minister's job in this country. And
That'd be ridiculous.
It is. And my view
you think is a bit more important than, say, the head of the Bank of England?
Well, in terms of public perception. I
don't think so.
What do people...
I think the FA have, over the years, corroded the public's affection for the national game, and so that people's interest in England as a national team, and because of their poor performances in tournaments, has turned everyone off.
Right, OK. So, listen, if the Prime Minister's speaking, most people listen. If the Governor of the Bank of England's speaking, most people turn off. If the England manager's speaking, everybody listens.
Well, if Gareth Southgate speaks, everybody goes to sleep.
No, they don't, you see, because Gareth Southgate is the England manager. Why are you being so offensive
the tax dodger, as he's
Why
now
are you being
known.
So offensive to the interim England manager? I have no
I'm
idea.
not being offensive, I'm just telling the truth.
I think it's born out of ignorance.
I'm just giving you my opinion. How about this from Keith? Mike, I haven't spoken to Porky for 3 days. I don't like interrupting. Freddie says, can the fat man stop shouting, please? It's not helping my aching head after a night of extreme, unmoderated bladderisation.
Well, you're the only fat person in this studio, so that's directed
How
at
much
you.
do you weigh?
How much do I weigh?
Yeah.
What's that got to do with it?
Well, you want to weigh me against me? I'll tell you exactly how much I weigh. I know exactly how much you weigh because I've seen Dr. Banner's letter.
No, I weigh 90 kilos.
99, it said in the letter.
No, that was then.
You've lost 9, have you? How'd you do that?
Walking.
Walking?
I picked up the pace on the walking again.
Right, okay.
Yeah, which I advise anybody to do. By the way, walking 20 minutes a day will keep you healthy for a good 7 years longer than you would normally expect your life expectancy to be. Believe me, I know about these things.
All right, now coming up, we're going to talk about Lewis Hamilton, another one of your heroes who you've been defending for your entire life.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you it's time for somebody to tell him to shut up. This is talkSPORT. This is talkSPORT. We are the two mics, and the warm-up is here until 2 o'clock. And then, of course, coming up a little bit later on, Ian Danton's going to be joining us to tell us what's coming up on Match Day Live. Bury 1-0 up on Peterborough at the moment, Porky, in case you're interested in some of the other games going on. By the way,
what?
Do you remember when I said
no, you're
Bury 1-0 up on Peterborough?
No, right, okay, go on, yeah.
Well, you're shocked by that, ain't you?
No.
Bury are higher up the table than Peterborough.
I couldn't care less.
What do you mean you couldn't care less?
I'm sorry, but
you're man of the people, football fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, the big story, right, in the lower leagues is surrounding York City, because we spoke about this on Thursday night, right?
Did,
and you poo-pooed me and said nobody's interested in this story.
Yes.
This story is taken off like you wouldn't believe.
Which story?
Jackie McNamara, the York City manager, will leave the club today if they don't get a favourable result, or a positive result, as they call it, against Braintree.
I mean, isn't that a shocking, sort of Damocles to have to...
Sort of what?
The sort of Damocles.
Damocles?
Yeah.
Do you mean Damocles?
That's exactly, yeah, that's him. Isn't it a terrible... a terrible pressure to have to work under the sword of Damocles hanging over your neck?
But what I said to you last week, and I think it's true, right, is that, this is a new thing in football, because, previously you've never actually heard a manager be told that, right? Or a manager say it himself, that he said that ahead of a game, that I will resign if we don't get a positive result.
Yeah, well...
That's amazing, isn't it?
The
First time for everything.
The world's become a more brutal place. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Now let's talk about Lewis Hamilton, right?
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton.
Because I got a tweet here earlier from somebody, I'm just trying to find it, who says something like, has he lost the plot? Because apparently, here it goes, 40. Is Lewis Hamilton losing the plot? He's now calling the media disrespectful after reporting of his Snapchatting at the press conference. Remember, he was on the back pages the other day.
Made a bit of an ass of himself.
A bit of an ass of himself, because he was drawing, sort of making his head into a rabbit and all this kind of stuff that you can do on Snapchat in the midst of a press conference involving all the other Formula One drivers, head of the Japanese Grand Prix tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I think he was being disrespectful to his profession and to his team. Well, exactly. to his fellow drivers,
exactly,
and to the world. To be honest.
Okay, so you're now finally seeing things from my perspective.
No, I said I
never normally defend him.
No, I will defend Lewis Hamilton for the brilliance of his driving and for his sheer determination to win. But that doesn't mean you've got to be rude to people who you believe are not really up to your sort of social standards and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I think it's disrespectful, but also it's grossly arrogant, right? And of course, it's come back to bite him on the backside because he's not got pole position. He missed out. And his best mate Nico Rosberg has it instead.
Do you know what? I'm going to make a prediction here.
Go on.
Lewis Hamilton is easily capable of taking Rosberg on the first bend, even though he's not on pole position. He's done it on a number of occasions this season. He did a number of occasions last season. And in fact, the turning point for his season this season, when he was in a position to storm ahead, was his total inability to come off the grid, if you remember.
Yes.
And fell back to seventh place, and Nico Rosberg roared off. Now,
but let's
he
not
won't
forget
let that happen again.
Well, he will, because he will blame his... because a bad workman blames his tools, right? Lewis Hamilton consistently blames Mercedes. He makes out practically there's some kind of conspiracy against him.
I totally agree with that.
He talks as though people don't like him, which they probably don't. Yeah. And the fact that they're also actually urging him not to win, which is nonsense.
I mean, can you honestly believe... This is what I found the most ridiculous. Can you honestly believe the night before the race, somebody at Mercedes was creeping around the team headquarters saying, by the way, can you make sure Lewis's engine blows up on the 13th lap tomorrow?
Well, do you know what? I mean, stranger things have happened.
Oh,
I mean, you can't really believe that, can you?
Yeah.
You wouldn't think
in fact, because it's Mercedes, it could have been some guy creeping around saying, we will blow up the engine in the Lewis Hamilton car on the lap 53. Do you understand? We have the instructions.
Absolutely.
I can't believe
we're asking the questions.
Yeah, I can't believe that could have happened.
No, I can't be right. Elliot says this. I might be going against the grain, but I think Mike Parry is a brilliant broadcaster.
Oh, really? You really? I didn't want to read that one out, actually, but you did, so,
Kirk is asking how you've managed to lose 9 kilos recently. I can't read out the reason that he's suggesting it's happened.
Yes.
But he has put a little picture of a rabbit there. Which feeds into the other conspiracy theory currently doing the rounds, that your new kind of demeanour of niceness and general sort of fairness to me.
It's always been there.
No, well, does that mean that you've been acting as a sort of mad grump?
No.
And a rude person?
Not at all.
You've become much less rude in recent weeks.
It's horses for courses, mate. You have to be aware of your surroundings and all that kind of
Paul
stuff.
says this. So Porky thinks England's manager is the most important job. That's a kick in the teeth for Dr. Banner.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Dr. Banner only deals with people like me. Gareth Southgate has to deal with the whole nation and keep them happy. Listen, what we haven't talked about, by the way, is the fact that Arsene Wenger has ruled himself out of being the next England manager.
Has he?
Of course he has.
Why?
Wenger, FA must go English. This is written by a very good colleague of ours, John Cross.
John Cross?
Chief football writer for
Well,
the
he's
Mirror.
actually written something for the Mirror. Well, he's actually got out of the talkSPORT studios for long enough to write a story. I don't believe that.
That is a bit hard.
I don't believe it. When's he on again?
And funny enough, the other name on the back of this paper this morning is Darren Lewis.
Darren?
Yeah, Southgate demands bravery.
Now that's a red letter day for the Mirror. To have both talkSPORT stars writing for the back page.
You're absolutely right.
Tremendous.
But what Johnny says is Arsene Wenger has effectively ruled himself out of the running for the England job after claiming it's very important that the FA appoint an Englishman.
See, there's that
I've
word,
been saying
though.
that for years.
No, but there's that word.
Go on.
There's the key word in that first paragraph is effectively.
Effectively,
which means that's not actually a true story.
Has effectively
So
ruled
when you
himself
say,
out.
I mean, it's a bit like me saying, Porky Parry has effectively given up drinking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which would also be untrue.
Well,
when you put the word effectively in there, it means it's not true.
Yeah, I'll tell you a statistic without a word of a lie.
Go on.
Considering yesterday is Friday, and we consider Friday actually our one day off during the week, you know what I mean, so to speak.
Yeah.
Once we've got home.
Yes.
I have not imbibed a single drop of wine.
What?
A single drop of wine.
Since when?
Last Saturday.
Since last Saturday?
Yeah.
Really?
Honestly.
Well, maybe that's why you're so nice then.
No,
maybe you've turned a corner.
It's just that wine...
Are you on the old penicillin again?
No, not on the penicillin. I did have a procedure on my nose.
It's actually looking all right, isn't it?
Well,
it's kind of recovered now.
It's not really. It looks...
Well, no, it had a couple of stitches. You have to get the stitches out.
No, the stitches melt away.
Oh, right,
I had 2 stitches put in it.
Yeah.
And what happens is they literally evaporate or melt away or something.
You know one of the worst things I've ever had to do?
What?
When it comes to stitches?
What?
I once had to take stitches out of a cat.
Ew. Well, you just cut them, don't you?
Yeah, really? Have you ever tried cutting stitches out of a cat's stomach?
No, but I mean, you just cut the stitches.
You just cut the stitches. Have you ever had a cat?
No, of course not.
No. What do you mean, of course not? Why
cats are evil. I regard cats as evil. I wouldn't have a cat in my house.
Right, okay. Well,
Cats plan against you. They work against you.
Well, they might work against you. Well, you think everybody's plotting against you,
No,
don't
I don't. No.
I mean, you sit at home in your little eyrie, worrying about all these people plotting against you. No, but the cat had some kind of operation. I can't remember what it was.
Yes.
And the doctor, the vet, put the stitches in and said, "Don't worry, you can just take them out after about a week."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what. I mean, I was bleeding from almost every part of me.
Why?
Because you have to hold the cat down.
Yes.
Right, and try and take a pair of scissors and make sure that the cat's not moving. So because if you
cut the cat's stomach.
Well, if the cat moves, you stab it with the scissors. You have to take it back to the vet.
Well, why didn't you have somebody else holding the cat?
Well, we did. There was 2 of us, right?
Yeah.
But it was still, and cats give off the most. It's like when you try and take them to the vet, put them into the basket.
Yeah.
They give off this kind of real aggression, and they roll themselves up into a ball.
I'd have done it properly. I'd have wrapped cloths around the cat's claws.
Cloths?
Right, yeah, cloths. Yeah,
have you ever tried to do that?
I could do it.
No,
I could do it.
You could not,
take them, right? I would. And then I would tape the cat's head, right? No, it's...
Tape the cat's head to what?
Its neck.
Yeah.
Its neck.
Right.
I would tape its neck.
You can't hold a cat.
I would tape its neck to the leg of a table, right? So it couldn't get away.
Right.
I would, honestly.
Right.
Look, you pick up the cat, right? Yeah. And you've got the back of the cat.
So what, you got some gaffer tape?
Yeah, the cat's looking at you.
Yeah.
The cat's looking at you.
Right, the cat's also trying to scratch you at this point.
You've got somebody else
there. And it's also wriggling, and it has no real vertebrae.
You've got somebody else there. You put it against the leg of a table.
Right.
You then...
Why don't you just nail it to it?
No. You then wind the tape around the cat's neck and the table to hold it.
Right.
You then wind the tape around the cat's body.
All this while, the cat is being completely still, right?
No, the cat is being held by somebody else. You've got to assert authority over animals, right? They're dumb, and you're not. And your voice can often instill authority.
Yes.
Used in the proper way.
Well, of course you would think it would be easy, because that's what you think. You think you could do everything better than everybody else.
I don't think that at all, because some people, do a lot of things better than me. But what I'm saying is, if you'd approached it in a more practical manner, instead of just wielding a pair of scissors, frightening the cat to death because the cat thought you were going to stab it rather than take its stitches out, that cat doesn't know it's got stitches that need cutting out.
No, of course he doesn't.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
all I was saying was it was a very, very difficult and traumatic thing, and everybody, including the cat, by the end of the exercise, was sweating buckets. It was horrible. Now, it's time for When the Funny Stop in association with the Senate Group.
Indeed.
And joining us right now, Mr. Parry, is comedian and Grimsby and England fan, Lloyd
Grimsby?
Griffiths.
God, you've got to be a comedian, haven't you, to support Grimsby?
Actually, I was going to say, I'm not sure you can put comedian and Grimsby in the same sentence, but let's talk to Lloyd and find out whether he is, in fact, as funny as we're told he is. Hello, Lloyd.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Not
Hi,
bad,
Lloyd,
not bad at all. So can you be a Grimsby fan and a comedian, or do the two go together?
Well, comedy comes from pain, doesn't it? So supporting Grimsby Town gives me more than enough material.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Mr. Parry famously in the past has been given a lot of grief by people from Grimsby because he once said that nobody uses that whole bridge, the beautiful spanning bridge, because it goes to Grimsby and nobody ever goes there.
Oh, well, we do, because we've got holidays in Hull and stuff, so we'll use the Umber Bridge. I think it's down to £1.50 for the tour, so it's a bargain.
Oh, is it?
It's actually got 4.5 stars on TripAdvisor, which is more than the Ritz Hotel in London.
I'm sure it has, but it's all about checking out, isn't it?
But is that they all done by the same bloke, though?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
It must be. Is Cleethorpes round there as well, Lloyd?
Cleethorpes, it's next door. It's the same road. So Grimsby Road goes into Cleethorpes, Road goes into Grimsby. So it is pretty much the same thing. So I live I've got my family from Cleethorpes. So
the reason I mentioned Cleethorpes is a guy died this week whose name I can't even remember.
Rod Temperton.
Yeah, that's right. Who wrote Thriller and all that, and he came from Cleethorpes. So I have to say, you've got a bit of form for producing some great people round there.
It's we get a lot of stick, Grimsby and Cleethorpes, mainly because the name's got Grim in it. But we've got some decent people. Ella Henderson, the current pop star, she's from Grimsby. Thomas Turgoose.
Probably won't have heard of him.
Norris from Coronation Street. He was born in Grimsby.
Norris, what a great guy.
You've only done 3 people. You're already down to somebody who's got a small part in Coronation Street.
No, he's got a large part, actually.
Has he?
Anyway, talking about Grimsby in football terms, Lloyd, I was born and brought up in Chester, and as a kid, right, the only place I could go was Sealand Road before I was able to go to Goodison Park. And I have to say, Chester-Grimsby, wow, they were some great clashes, believe me.
Yeah, we don't play each other at the moment because
different leagues.
In the conference, we've managed to claw our way back into the football league.
Now, Lloyd, getting back to football, mate, do people in Grimsby, Cleethorpes, Hull, and all that kind of stuff, do they have a big feeling of, patriotism towards the national team? Because, particularly from Grimsby, you've never won anything at local level, so do you put your heart and soul into the international team?
There's a few lads that definitely do. I'm an England fan as well.
Yes.
And I guess if you're an England fan and Grimsby fan, there's a lot of pain from supporting both of those. But there's a lot of, I think most people in Grimsby do support Grimsby and see England as the second club, really.
Yeah.
So, Grimsby fans are very passionate. So much so that Sacha Baron Cohen decided to write a film about the passion of Grimsby and England fan.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of passion. We get a lot of away support as well. So I'm in Exeter at the moment, and I know that we'll have 300 or 400 down here. And it's a long trip, that is a long trip.
Drive.
Wow, it is.
Do you still live up there in Grimsby then, Lloyd?
No, I don't. I live in London now.
Okay.
Because that's where comedy lives.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
But I get back as often as I can. I probably get 25, 30 games a season.
That's a very good. That's a very good attendance rate. That I tell you, that's very good.
I try and organise my comedy gigs around Grimsby Town fixtures, which my agent doesn't like, but it keeps me happy.
Yeah.
So I was in Exeter last night. I'm in Lyme Regis tonight, so the rock and roll tour.
Oh, that's great, Lyme Regis. That's very good indeed.
I had my sunglasses stolen there by a seagull.
What, in Lyme Regis?
Really?
Yeah.
What, took them off your face?
Yeah, took them off my head.
Yeah, well, your face looks like
it flew right into my head.
Turnip,
next thing I knew, he'd flown off with the sunglasses.
That's
amazing.
Right.
I'll keep a lookout for them.
Yeah, they are. They're very clever, the seagulls down there. They operate in gangs.
Yeah. Now, Lloyd, are you a big fan of the fact that we have a game this afternoon? We have a new manager, Mike Graham, who's working with me, says it's a rubbish game. It won't prove anything. I don't agree, Lloyd, because we've got a New England manager. It's a new era, and I think it's great that we've got one of the weaker international teams in which he can experiment with his players today. Do you agree with me?
I do agree. It's almost like a friendly, really. Isn't it? No,
it is. You're right.
Malta, but,
you're right.
If you're playing Malta, you're playing San Marino, you're playing, like a lower team. It kind of, if it was England, Scotland, and it was Southgate's first game in charge, then there'd be a lot of pressure.
And I would think that would be, and I would say exactly the opposite of what I've said today. I would say, great, what a fantastic opportunity for him to prove what sort of manager he is. But you're not going to learn anything from a game against a team like Malta.
I mean, you won't, but I think it's a good way for him to kind of put his feet under the table. There was no big song and dance about him getting the job as interim.
Yeah.
And I think it's good that there's not a big song and dance about his first game. Gareth Southgate in charge of Malta.
Yeah.
And I mean, if he loses, then we'll all be moaning tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, if he loses, I think we'll be looking for a new manager. I can't imagine that happening.
No, I can't either. Now, Lloyd, just talking about comedy again, one person that we are concentrating on in the shows here, the two mics, is the new Swansea manager, Bob.
Bobcat Bob.
Get you now, boy! Because he's the first American manager in the Premier League, and, last night he was making his position clear. I'm the sort of guy who pushes the envelope, I want respect. I just imagine he might come onto your radar sometime.
He may do, yeah. I think there's kind of like quite a few caricature managers in the Premier League at the moment, and like Klopp, Conte, and certainly Al Bobcat will kind of.
Did you ever do a skit on Big Sam?
No, I didn't. Because although I'm a bigger guy. That is a big suit to fill.
Yeah, it certainly
is. That is a big suit to fill. Now, talking comedy, of course, Lloyd, tell us what your best joke is.
So my best joke that I use all the time, it's usually like my closer in all clubs all around the country, is why do bees have such sticky hair?
I don't know. Why do bees have such sticky hair?
Because they use honeycombs.
They use their honeycombs. Yeah. I like it.
All right.
I like it.
Well, now you don't have to go to his show because you know how it ends.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Lloyd, thank you very much indeed.
I say that 13 times over the show. So.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Lloyd, thank you very much indeed for joining us, mate, and good luck with the tour.
From the day I got fired by the U.S., I've not said one thing publicly about their team. All right? I don't appreciate the way it was done. I think they made a mistake. I'm glad that Jurgen says some nice things now. When he did commentary on the 2010 World Cup, he was already jockeying for the job. So I've shut my mouth, continued to support the team, because I, of course, want to see the team do well. Michael's the captain. So if he has said something in a nice way, I appreciate it. And if at some point he chooses to try to work again outside the U.S., I wish him the best.
I'll tell you what, I mean, his voice is hoarse now. What's it going to be like after a game?
I don't know.
When he's been standing on the touchline for 90 minutes shouting at the boys.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't get enough respect from my players. Yeah.
And I love the way he says 2010 as well.
Yeah.
It's like the countdown to something.
2010. Hey, Bob, what did you tell your players at half-time? I told them, you got to push the envelope.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, we've got lots more coming up, of course. In the next hour, we're going to be talking about some of the worst airline announcements that have ever been made.
Yeah, why is that then?
Because there's a new book out which is kind of detailing what some of them are.
Oh,
but also, you might be pleased to know this. One of the airlines, one of the international airlines, has actually come up with a plan so that people can fly child-free.
Well,
so that you won't actually have to worry about all the noise and all the screaming and all the arguing.
I've never been
bothered
actually by children on a flight that I can remember.
Isn't that normally because you're oblivious to all noise around you?
Well, don't a lot of airlines not allow children in the sort of forward cabins, the first and business?
Well, I've told you the story of when I was upgraded once with my daughter.
Yeah, but you couldn't take it because
and they said we can't upgrade you if you've got a child with you. But if you pay to actually to fly in first class or business class, they can't stop you taking your child in because you paid for the seat.
Yeah, that's true. It's just the upgrade thing, I think. And sometimes you're given a facility, you're flying, and you get on the plane, and then you're told you've got to go back because they don't allow your children to be there. So I've been aware of that situation.
No,
definitely.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, what about this, ladies and gentlemen? This would put an absolute shiver down your spine.
Yes.
We've just discovered that they've forgotten to give us any glasses for the drinks on this long haul flight.
Oh, really? Well, that was an announcement on the plane.
That was an announcement on a plane, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how that would affect you?
It would, yeah.
Presumably you just ask for a bottle, wouldn't you?
Well, I don't know.
Well, they give you those little bottles. You just drink out of that.
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah, I totally agree with you. There was, I remember once, it was a few years back now, I was coming back from somewhere in, I remember in Mallorca or Spain. It was a job I was doing. And, we'd successfully in fact, I think it was Prince Michael of Kent, when there'd been a newspaper report that his wife had actually, been having a good old time, on her own somewhere.
Bit of horizontal refreshment.
Well,
was that the Ward Hunt story? That was the one I was working on.
It may have been. I may have been working on the other end of it,
Texas,
in Mallorca or something like that.
Well, you'd have been following my story because we broke the story.
Well, whatever. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
And I remember flying back and thinking, and the captain came on, and it was the usual, ladies and gentlemen, flying at 35,000 feet, and skies clear. And if you look down on your right, you'll see we're just traversing the Pyrenees.
Yeah,
and
very nice.
And then about 10 or 15 seconds later, ladies and gentlemen, your captain here, my first officer tells me that that's not actually the Pyrenees. No, I'm not joking. He said it's, it was some other range of mountains, like the Andes or something. Not the Andes. That's
that was the way off course.
No,
it was in the wrong continent.
That's right. Some mountains in Spain rather than in France or something. So I thought anybody can make a mistake. I suppose only in charge of the plane. Anyway, about sort of an hour later, ladies and gentlemen, flying 35,000 feet, clear sky, run down into London Heathrow, and if you look below you, you'll see we're just crossing the coast of France.
Right.
And then about 10 seconds later, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry to bother you. My first officer tells me that's the English coast, actually.
That's brilliant. Do you remember there was a couple of cases of this? I think it was back in sort of the start of this century.
Yeah.
A couple of pilots in America just landed at the wrong airport.
Yeah, that's right.
And they were supposed to be flying from Atlanta to Detroit or something.
I do, yeah.
And he touched down in Kansas City.
That's
right. Thought
it
was Detroit or something. Ridiculous.
Do you know what the best airline story is at the moment? And I meant to sort of talk to you about this last week because it's a scandal. There's an island called St. Helena.
Yes.
And in
that's where Napoleon
Exactly.
went,
that's where Napoleon was exiled and where he...
They didn't have an airport then.
No, they certainly didn't have an airport, and they haven't had an airport ever, and to get there is a 6-day boat journey from Cape Town.
Well, I suppose that's why you go exiled.
Well, exactly. You're absolutely right. And in fact, that was...
Surely they can fly planes.
Well, hang on. Let me just tell you the story. It's a great story.
I don't know if we've got time.
Well, we've got time, don't worry. Because what happened was, right, first of all, Napoleon died there from his own wallpaper.
Yeah.
His wallpaper killed him.
Because fell on him, right?
No. They scraped lead out of the ground to decorate his wallpaper, and the lead killed him. Anyway, the point is, after hundreds of years, they built an airport, right? And the British government paid for it, £285 million.
Why do we pay for it?
Because it's a British protectorate still. St Helena is still a British protectorate. Yes, it is, yeah.
Was it when Napoleon was on it then?
Yes, it was, of course. That's why we exiled him there, because it was ours.
Okay.
But anyway, the point of the story...
So do people from St Helena have British passports then?
Yes, they do.
Do they?
Yes, they do.
And they drive on the left?
I don't know if they drive on the left. I haven't been there. There's only one road on St Helena anyway. But anyway, the point of this story is, right...
Are there any forests?
No forest on St Helena. So then the Foreign Office go around encouraging international business to get into St Helena because it's soon going to be a hotspot because they're building an airport, they're going to open the airport, and everybody's going to be hunky-dory.
Right.
So all these businesses go there and open hotels... literally restaurants, bars. When's the airport opening? It's opening tomorrow. Great. So they open the airport. First plane flies in, and they're all watching. And the plane comes in, and just as about to land, it goes, and it takes off.
Right.
It doesn't even land. It's like that scene from Top Gun when Tom Cruise is about to land on the carrier, but then
How long is this story, by the way?
Hang on, we've got to go and save our
time.
boss. Anyway, the point of the story
is this. What is the point of it?
They've built an airport on St Helena, which has been built in the wrong place.
Right.
There is so much wind shear from the wind that blows between the two mountains, they cannot use the airport.
Right.
And all the businesses that have gone there and set up are standing there empty. There's nobody on St Helena.
Right.
The airport doesn't work. It's a waste of 285 million quid. So St Helena's knackered.
What a ridiculous story. Last week, we kicked off the 1 minute moan.
That's right.
You decided to moan about the Deutsche Bank.
Yes.
I decided to moan about Tower Bridge being closed for 3 months.
That's right.
I've been told by our producer, Ross, that I was the winner of last week's 1 minute moan.
Well, I can't understand
It
that.
is time now, though, to do with a 1 minute moan for this week.
Okay.
So would you like to go first?
I'll go first.
On the grounds that you lost last week?
I'll go first.
OK, well, let's have the clock.
Sorry.
Well, you've got to start now.
Oh, I thought we had a bong to start. Can we start again, please? Stop.
For God's sake.
Okay, right.
You had a full start in a radio show.
Go on.
All right, can we start the clock, please?
Yeah. Now then, I'm very upset with the builders who are working near my home in Stockbroke Belt, Surrey, OK?
Are you?
The reason is they're contractors. Now, there's a huge building going up, OK? And this building is served by a number of contractors. And what they do is they park their vans near my street, or in my street, some of them. Yeah. Now, what they do is they slide the sliding door on the side of their van and they sit there at lunchtime and they eat their sandwiches and they drink their cans of Coca-Cola and they smoke their cigarettes, but they drop them all into the street. And it is filth. It is filth personified. I'm a big supporter of Bob the Builder in this country. They're usually self-employed.
Bob the Builder?
Yeah, they're usually self-employed. They're usually hard-working. They're usually dedicated professionals. But they have littered and filthed my street. And I'm not having it, OK? And what I'm going to do is, I've reported to the council.
Have you?
It is a crime to litter in this country. I have reported to the council. It is a crime to litter, but these guys with their hard hats, with their big boots, with their high-vis jackets on, are simply munching away through all sorts of food, smoking their way through cigarettes, drinking away through cans of Coke, and then depositing them like filth on my street.
Once again, completely unenlightened self-interest. It's all about you, isn't it? My rant is about something far more worthwhile, if you want to start the clock from me. I'm sick of hearing about two particular people, and this week I've been absolutely inundated with stories about both of them. The first one is Kim Kardashian, right? Who was the subject, of course, of this terrible robbery, supposedly in Paris. Nobody can understand why she walks around with that much jewellery. Nobody can understand why, as a woman who flaunts her wealth, she should be surprised that somebody's finally decided to nick some of it. You know, the papers have been absolutely jam-packed full of it. It was on the front page for days and days and days. I couldn't care less about Kim Kardashian. I've never watched the Kardashians. I've never been interested in what she does, whether she takes her clothes off, whether she's got a ring that's worth more money than the British national economy, and I just don't want to read any more about her. Even today in the papers, there's reams and reams and reams of rubbish about Kim Kardashian. It's all over the place. Now, the other person that I don't want to hear from anymore for a very long time is Tyson Fury.
Right.
Now, here's a guy who should be a role model. He should be proud to be heavyweight champion of the world, instead of which he's completely and utterly squandered everything that he's had. People say he's got mental health problems. Well, he should take some time to get those mental health problems sorted out instead of spouting on about how he takes loads of cocaine and it's nobody's business.
Have
what
you
a plank.
Finished?
I've finished. That's it. That's the two mics, and that, I suppose, is Jerry Lee Lewis, isn't it?
It is, yeah, obviously.
And what's the big deal about Jerry Lee Lewis?
Now, that song you just heard, Great Balls of Fire, I think that was released on this day in 1957.
Yeah.
So that's 57 to 07 is 50 years.
Right.
And then to 17 would be 60 years, but we're 1 year back, so it's 59 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
59 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, Jerry Lee Lewis...
Almost around about the time you were born.
Not far off.
Not far off.
Not far off.
Oh, look, there's been another goal at Peterborough. Sorry to interrupt. There's a rabbit on the pitch as well. I don't know what's going on there. A massive rabbit suddenly ran onto the pitch.
Really?
Well, not a real rabbit, you know, but somebody dressed as a rabbit.
Oh, really? Like a mascot?
I presume it's a mascot, yeah. Has Peterborough got a rabbit as a mascot?
I don't know. We'd have to ask Adrian Durham.
We'd have to ask Adrian Durham,
Adrian Durham's gone native today, isn't he?
He's doing the rugby league, isn't he?
Rugby league, that's right, yeah.
Well, it's his favourite sport.
It is. He's a big fan of it. He's just written a book about it as well. So,
but he doesn't support Wigan or Warrington, does he, who are in the final?
No, he supports Hull, doesn't he? Because they won at Wembley recently. He was in tears. So, I mean, you know, he's a real patriarch to his favourite sport.
Aficionado, and we'll be talking to Ian Danter coming up in a little while as well.
And good for him.
Now, how about this?
Jerry Lee Lewis, hang on, sorry. Yes, we have Jerry Lee Lewis, right.
Yeah, go on.
Jerry Lee Lewis was the only person, I think, that John Lennon, the man who
So you managed to get
named,
John Lennon into this story?
Ever asked to meet during the whole of his career.
Really?
Didn't want to meet Elvis, even though he said before Elvis there was nothing.
Yeah.
What he said was the biggest influence in his life as a a composer more than a musician was Jerry Lee Lewis.
Well, he was the first mad man of rock, really, wasn't he?
Didn't he go around marrying sort of 13-year-old girls and things?
He was found guilty of that fantastically phrased crime in America, moral turpitude.
Moral turpitude.
Which is taking...
don't think that Bob would get involved
well, we hope that
Bob would not get involved in moral turpitude.
Bobcat Bob, we don't want him anywhere near moral turpitude because, of course, what he also kept doing was taking underage girls across the state line for the purposes of moral turpitude. And so he was rather a bad man, it has to be said.
He's still alive, isn't he?
Jerry Lee Lewis?
Yeah.
Well, you're supposed to know these things. I don't know.
I think he is.
I think he would be.
I was confusing with the other guy with the weird face, Jerry Lewis. Yeah, that's right. I was
he was in the Rat Pack, wasn't he?
I think he was. I'm pretty sure he brought his 14-year-old bride to England when he was here on tour one time.
Well, he might have done. But the funny thing is Elvis, of course, was with Priscilla Presley when she was very young.
Well,
nothing ever happened to him.
No.
He was kind of a hero.
Oh, yeah, but he never had a relationship with...
Well, so he says.
No, I know these things. He never had a relationship with... what was her name again?
Priscilla.
Priscilla until she was 17.
Yeah, that's what he says.
No. You have to believe these things. You can't destroy great memories of the great icons of American culture like that.
Anyway, listen, the big England game coming up this afternoon. England playing Malta. First game for Gareth Southgate. Brian, who's a Liverpool fan, is on the phone because I think he wants to agree with you, bizarrely.
Excellent.
Brian, have you gone mad, mate?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
Hiya,
Brian.
Yeah, well, I'm just a fantastic show, lads. I'm on my way down to Norwich. I'm playing a gig tonight, but it's a great show.
Yeah.
Now, it's, I have to take my hat off to Mike because, at the end of the day, you don't play in the Premiership as a centre-back and be, not strong. People are saying Gareth Southgate, because of the personality he shows on TV.
Carl, your voice is waving in and out of conversation, mate. Can you do something to your phone because it goes quiet and then loud, then quiet, then loud?
Oh, right, okay. Is that a little bit better?
Yeah, okay.
Not really,
no,
but carry on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, people get the wrong impression of Gareth Southgate because, of his personality on TV.
Yes.
But, this guy's played as a centre-back against some of the strongest strikers in the world. And he takes that into the dressing room. What you see on the TV is totally different to what you see in the dressing room with Gareth Southgate. He's a really strong man, and I think he'll do well. The game tonight, we was, the suggestion that it's a nautical game.
Yeah, it is all very interesting. I'm afraid the quality of the conversation.
Brian, listen, terribly sorry, but it is a terrible line. But I think his point is basically that Gareth Southgate is a man of sort of solid rock because he's played at the back against some of the best teams in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
By that token, he must therefore have some character. I'm not saying he doesn't have character. I'm not saying he doesn't have, a sort of a bit of steel about him.
Yes.
But he's not very inspiring. I mean, I don't care which way you look at it. He's not the sort of guy that's going to get a team supposedly, sort of ratcheted up to a certain level.
The point that Carl, our Liverpool fan there with the dodgy phone, was making was he said, I believe that in the dressing room he does have strength and authority amongst the players.
He doesn't know that. By the way, speaking of that, did you see that video that was put out? It was doing the rounds on Twitter of Neil Warnock from this parish, who's now taken over at Cardiff.
No.
Right? Shouting and screaming, effing and blinding when he was manager of Sheffield United.
Right.
In fact, one of his players, it was half time.
Really?
And he was saying to this one guy, whose name was Morgan, I think.
Right.
And it was an ex-Everton player, a player that now plays for Everton in the team as well.
Jagielka.
It was Jagielka, I think, yeah. And he was shouting at Jagielka and this guy because they'd obviously let a goal in or something. He'd say to this guy, I told you to just effing mark him.
Yeah.
And the guy's going, but there's these big...
Never mind.
I've never heard so many F words in my life, but
really,
seeing Neil Warnock actually giving them all an absolute hiding.
Well, I think that's a huge part of the way his managerial style, if you see what I mean. The interesting thing about Gareth...
There's been another goal at Peterborough. Hang on a second.
Oh, no,
we've got to go back.
There.
What do you mean, no?
Who cares?
I mean, you're the only person that's on radio who only wants to hear your own voice.
I think I'm right in saying that some of the players that will be playing for England this afternoon have played with Gareth Southgate.
Have they?
I think Wayne Rooney has.
Well, Wayne Rooney maybe. He's about the only one left, isn't he?
Well, he started playing for England when he was 17. Yeah. That's 13 years ago. So Gareth played in the 96, 06... I don't think Gareth
that'd be
playing.
2003, wouldn't it?
No.
If he was still playing 13 years ago.
No. Wayne Rooney...
Wayne Rooney's like 29, isn't he?
Wayne Rooney made his debut in 2002. So he could well have played with Gareth Southgate, couldn't he?
Well, that's why I said it's like 13 years ago.
That's right, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Something like that.
So that's, isn't that an amazing thing that you're looking at the guy there and thinking, hang on.
Well, not really.
I remember you were centre offering them when I made my debut.
Well, Pep Guardiola did that, didn't he?
Yeah,
when he started managing Barcelona, he played with some of the players he'd come up through the ranks with.
Yes, he did.
Now, a lot of people have taken exception to your cat torturing scenario.
Oh,
you were
he
talking
wasn't
about
cat
taping
torturing.
a cat's head to a table and all that.
No. I just thought it was the easiest thing to do.
Jordan has sent a great picture of a cat basically wrapped in gaffer tape. I'm hoping that Jordan, you didn't do that as a result of Porky's advice.
Well, exactly.
But I'll tell you what else. Barry says this. St. Helena is not ridiculous. It's a very serious story. In the meantime, the old ship RMS Helena is still working Southampton to Cape Town.
That's absolutely right.
Via St. Helena.
Yeah, it is absolutely right. And these people thought that suddenly their island was going to be transformed, literally transformed into, a vibrant, go-ahead, newly discovered island, and it ain't going to happen until they get the airport right.
Yeah, well, that's tragedy for all concerned. concerned. Maybe you should have made that your 1 minute moan, because Jane says this. Once again, MG wins in the 1 minute rant contest.
Oh, yeah.
Hashtag all about Porky.
Why?
Rob says, love the Tyson Fury analogy on 60 seconds, MG. That was
Yes.
spot on.
Yes.
Mick says, apart from Mike Parry and possibly his neighbours, who gives a flying fig about the local builders?
Everybody does.
Dave
it's
says,
littering. It's littering.
Oh,
it's
hang
a
on.
crime.
No, Dave says, 1 minute rant, old MG speaks for the nation, Mike Parry speaks for Mike Parry.
What?
Hashtag no contest.
That's so harsh.
And Losty says, I completely agree with Mike Graham on Kim Kardashian. She's a terrible role model for women and sums up what's wrong with society.
But it was a bit obvious, wasn't it? That happened to me once, by the way. The
What's
old wind shear. I was flying into Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
No, hang on. Jojo was a man who thought she was a woman, but she wasn't.
How does your mind work?
What was the name of the town in Arizona?
Get back. Tucson.
Yeah, Tucson. I was flying into
Not
Tucson.
Tucson.
No,
Tucson.
Yeah, we were flying into Tucson, right? I'm
Tucson.
not joking. And I had a window seat, and I saw
Were you in first class?
it was a short flight from somewhere like Fort Worth, Dallas or something, you know what I mean?
Dallas, Fort Worth, you mean?
Yeah, Dallas, Fort Worth, that's right. Yeah.
DFW.
DFW, that's right, yeah.
Bob.
And so...
See the time.
So we're getting closer to the ground because I'm in a window seat and I can see the ground coming. And you wait for that magic bump, don't you? You know, boom, when you've landed and all that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm waiting for the
all of a
magic
sudden-
bump which tells me you finished the story.
Yeah. All of a sudden, magic bump doesn't happen.
Right.
And I think, hang on, I've had too much to drink on this flight because we're going up and not down.
No change there.
Yeah,
then.
that's right. Yeah, we're going up, not down.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, and then the captain said, ladies and gentlemen, really sorry about that. Just as we were about to touch down, we had wind shear from the mountain range
you
on the
didn't.
right.
Rubbish.
Yeah, we did.
That's rubbish.
He goes
I'm
round.
an expert on wind shear.
Hang on. I saw the plane drifting off the runway, and I thought, hang on, we
that's
can't
not
land.
wind
It's
shear.
grass.
No.
It's grass below us.
No.
Anyway, just listen.
No, because if you had been hit by wind shear as you were coming down, which happened to a plane that I covered as a plane crash in Dallas Fort Worth Airport, you would have smashed into the ground.
No, it was blown off course off the
That's
runway.
not wind shear.
Right, so we go round.
That's
I'm not
side
joking.
wind.
We go round and we come in again, right? And exactly the same thing happened. By this time, I'm getting nervous, so I had another drink. And we
They
then
couldn't have given you a drink if you were landing.
more
cobblers.
No, I'd stored a few.
Hurry
up. Stored a few up. We then flew off to Phoenix and landed in Phoenix, and I had to drive the 120 miles back.
What about all the drink you'd had?
I don't know what happened, to be honest, to the actual
Shocking story.
the portents of the drink driving law in relationship to my bodily state.
Well, the less
like
said about that, the better.
Yeah,
I think.
exactly. Yeah.
This is talkSPORT.
Yeah,
More
that's right.
funny tales from Parry's flying experiences
right,
coming
yeah.
up. Is that a world first, by the way? Eh? Is that?
What?
Sorry, am I interrupting
Not
you?
at all. What are you asking me?
Is that a world first?
World first what?
You're doing a show with me,
Yes.
right? And they play a trail for a show with your voice on it,
Yes.
for some other show.
Is that right?
So that we've just heard a trail for a show that you're doing tomorrow, and your voice is on it,
Is it?
even though you're actually doing a show now.
I didn't even notice, to be honest. I don't.
Really?
I have no self-awareness whatsoever in
Yeah,
that sort of
don't-
thing.
really?
You know what I mean? No, not at
Is
all.
that the
Not at all.
understatement of the year? Or
No,
what?
no.
Can we please clip that? We may have to use that in
No,
the future.
I-
I have no self-awareness at all.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Of course you don't.
Well, except in matters which concern me, of course, and which I have to be
Well,
self-aware.
you've just been
'cause-
on the radio being played a clip of your voice on a show that you're already doing.
Yes, okay.
Right?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I find that
I wasn't aware of
quite
that,
nauseating.
but thanks for telling me.
Quite nauseating.
Yeah.
Billy says this, Yeovil beating Sunderland in 53 was such a shock to my Sunderland supporting granddad that he didn't speak to anyone for a week.
Well, that's right. It was. I mean, I think Yeovil were a non-league team in those days, and Sunderland were giants. Rach Carter, Len Shackleton, all these sort of players. And
Scott of the Arctic.
not Scott of the Arctic. Now, listen, there's something I'm going to talk to you
We've
about.
got a guest to talk to.
Oh, we've got a guest.
Sean
That's great.
Kathleen.
Oh,
the
that's
last
excellent.
time we
Good.
spoke to her,
Yes.
I thought you
Yeah.
and she had a sort of little thing going on. So we're going to see whether Sean remembers that. Sean,
Excellent.
a very good afternoon to you here in London.
Hello, how are you boys?
Yeah,
Oh, Sean,
very well
it's
indeed.
great to hear from you. But fantastic voice you've got. Immediately warm, mellifluous, it's beautiful.
Mellifluous.
Yes, absolutely.
Mellifluous.
Yes.
Yeah, it's got
Yes.
two L's in it.
That's right.
Sean, now, welcome back to the show. Last time I thought you were on rather good form because you were flirting quite a lot with Mr. Parry here. I think he was quite taken with you.
How?
Yeah, I mean,
How
you
dare
guys were meant to be
you?
having dinner in London or something, weren't you?
when you got over here. But Your sheer intelligence radiates through your voice, Sean.
It's all relative.
And that's why...
I do get that a lot, yeah.
That's why we instantly gelled, if you see what I mean. Now, anyway...
I do.
Now, Sean's going to tell us, Mike,
Well, she's going to be telling us about... Well, she was, of course,
Exactly.
famously an air stewardess.
Very much so.
Or I suppose a member of the cabin crew, we say now.
Yes.
Because we've been reading about these ridiculous sort of warnings that have been given out on airlines. I frightened Mike Parry by saying, imagine if they said this on your flight. Ladies and gentlemen, we've just discovered they've forgotten to give us any glasses for the drinks on this long-haul flight.
Yeah.
I mean, you've written books about this and you've obviously worked in the industry for a long time. I mean, some of this stuff is quite remarkable, but I guess it happens, right?
It does. When I was reading some of it, I look, if I was on there and you got the no coffee thing, remember the old school movie Airplane?
Yep.
Remember when it's hey, we're going down, nobody says anything, and then they say, we're running out of coffee, and everybody's like, ah!
That's right. Yeah.
That's the other mic. That would be me too. But yeah, it does happen. I haven't experienced anything as severe as the ones that I've been reading about.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that bizarre. We're in trouble. We're going down.
Yeah, I know. That's terrible,
on
isn't it?
Airlines over here.
Well, I mean, my favourite one as well
frightening.
was from Ryanair, who where somebody said somebody was complaining about the fact that they hadn't taken off yet, and the flight attendant apparently said to the passengers, "Well, we've got ice on the wings, and we don't want to die, so you're gonna have to wait a bit longer."
Yeah.
Okay, I might have totally said that. That could have been me if I worked at Ryanair. But hey, I get it that we're delayed, but I mean, what? Pick one. I'm sorry. Do you want to wait 5 more minutes so we can de-ice the aircraft?
Absolutely.
Or
Sean,
whatever,
do you air hostesses have a sort of a plan to not shout back at passengers and punch them in the face when they become so irritating and unreasonable that actually, you feel undermined, underwhelmed, and embarrassed?
That's a good question. I don't think that we are officially trained on that because that's why I'm a former air hostess. So I didn't punch anybody.
The trouble is now, though, I mean, the glamour has gone out of flying, basically, completely and utterly.
Maybe.
And because we now live in this culture where you're not allowed to sort of lose your temper or raise your voice. I mean, if you travel on the trains in this country now, you can't move for all these signs that say, please do not verbally abuse our staff. So even when they're on strike...
you can't even...
Yeah, so even when they're on strike or your train is delayed or, the train doesn't move for 2 hours, you're not allowed to say anything to them because they immediately call the police and say that you're verbally harassing them.
That's right.
And I mean, on airlines,
It's awful.
on airlines now they get the old, the plastic handcuffs out and tie you to the chair, don't they?
They do.
Yes, that's true. I have used those.
Have you?
Oh, really?
I don't want to know about your private life, Sean.
Yeah.
At work. My bad.
Oh,
No,
at work.
I
Okay.
totally
What was
abused
what was the story there?
Just a passenger. I think what started it with it's happened a couple of times. I think with that one, it initially started with them smoking, and then they became completely belligerent, and it just went downhill from there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's quite difficult to. I mean, do you have to get somebody else to help you do that?
Yes. Usually, other passengers are very quick to help. I've even worked on a really tiny aircraft where I was the only flight attendant, and so I kind of relied. It was very brief that I did that, but I mean, I essentially relied on those other people because nobody else was in the cabin with me. It was myself and 50 passengers.
Yeah.
And they were so helpful. I mean, seriously, I felt safe with people. They will back you up.
Yep.
I mean, Americans do not mess around with that stuff after,
Oh, no.
9/11.
You're absolutely right. Jump on somebody if they're a bit dodgy. Now, the thing is, surely being an air hostess should still represent opportunities. For instance, Sean, did you know that the Duchess of Cornwall, who is married to the heir to the throne of the United Kingdom, her mother... So her mother, whose name is what?
Hey?
What's Kate's mother's name?
Her mother, is it Susan, isn't it?
I don't think it's Susan. But anyway, her mother used to be an air hostess, right? She's now the mother of the future Queen of England. But do you know what?
Yeah.
People used to take the mickey out of her. Whenever she was at a reception, before they got married, before her daughter got married to the future king, they used to take the mickey. But every time she walked in the room, they used to say, "Doors to manual."
Doors to manual, yeah.
And,
Three tables up.
yeah, that's right, and all that. So, I
but
mean,
that's because we live in a class-ridden society.
We
people
do.
assume that because she was a member of the cabin crew, that she therefore was not upper class enough.
That's right. But what I'm saying is, Sean, you must have had dozens of offers over the years from rich businessmen luxuriating in their big seats in first class.
Luxuriating.
Yes.
I've never heard it called that before.
Yeah. I love that word.
Yes.
It happens sometimes. And you know what's interesting? I know in India, and I've, flown there before, but you know what's interesting, because we're on par with you guys here in the U.S. However, in India and other countries, it's actually considered upper class, which is hysterical to me.
Yes.
But, it's like considered like, hey, she's fancy. She works on an airline.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
She's very...
Well, Porky,
no,
I mean, you must have been out with a few stewardesses in your time.
I have, actually.
Yeah.
I went out with a lady from Seychelles Air, which is one of the smallest airlines in the world.
Where was she from?
She was from Redhill in Surrey. Yeah. No. So what are you laughing at?
Well, near Gatwick.
Yeah, near Gatwick. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, where the planes took off from. Yeah, that's right.
So how long did you go out with her for?
Oh, it was one date.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, she didn't fancy the other one.
No, I thought she was boring, so I didn't bother ringing her up again. Yeah. Sorry, those are things.
That's awful, isn't it?
It
Terrible.
is, yeah.
Well, anyway, listen, Sean, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for joining us.
Once again.
Yes.
We shall talk to you again soon, I'm sure. That was Sean Kathleen.
Yes, that's right.
With a few stories from... you tell me about this girl from Seychelles.
Oh, it was so brief. And
what was her name?
Sean was joining us from... I have no idea.
You'd have no idea?
From Columbus, Ohio.
Okay. Jane says this, Porky, no self-awareness, never a truer word spoken.
Well, I mean, you don't... What do you do? Go around in life thinking, I actually have a position in life? No, you don't. You just take it for granted, don't you?
What?
If you see what I mean.
No.
You know what I mean?
No. Rob says this, and he's put a lovely picture of you with your mouth taped over, right? And it says, talkSPORT Cat finds roll of gaffer tape in studio and does the whole nation a big favour. Revenge is sweet.
Oh, that's a bit harsh.
I'm not an American manager. I'm a football manager. So now, when I come here, I realize that there's not one person in Swansea that could care less what anybody in the United States thinks at the moment. Okay? They care about their football club, and man, I'm here to give everything I have for the fans, for the club, and I couldn't be more excited about the chance.
Push that out the door.
Yeah,
Push it out the door.
I think Bob's going to push the envelope.
Bobcat Bob, new Swansea manager, of course. That is one of the great
Yeah.
Americanisms,
Boys.
right? Which is completely different from English, where the Americans, when they say, instead of saying, I couldn't care less,
yes,
they say, I could care less,
yes,
which actually means the complete opposit.
Yeah, of course it
but
does,
in American, it means the same.
Yeah, well...
Quite confusing.
A lot of American words confuse us. Like, there is a word... which begins with P in this country, which indicates that you're intoxicated in alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
But in America, it indicates that you're very fed up about
you're
something.
Angry, yes.
Exactly.
Absolutely right,
Yeah,
yeah. And it's also not usable on radio
It's
here.
not usable on radio.
Or
we wouldn't
indeed
dream of using it on a family show.
Also, some swear words are used much less there than they are here.
Indeed.
And when I first went over there and used a couple of swear words, people got quite upset.
Yes,
because I could be quite liberal, as some people will know if they come to any of our live shows with the old four-letter word.
Talking about offensive
Excuse me,
broadcasting.
I'm in the middle of talking about something.
Yes,
you keep interrupting me.
No, please do.
Heaven's sake. I was going to say, we are next on stage in Liverpool.
We are.
On Friday, the 4th of November.
That's right.
At the O2 Academy. So go to the twomics.co.uk or to the O2 Academy's webpage. And
Indeed.
You'll find a place to get some tickets.
Tickets are selling very fast, incidentally.
It is nearly sold out, I think. Yeah.
That'll be a very interesting 24 hours because we are getting out of Liverpool at before dawn the next day.
Are we?
Because we're coming back here.
I thought you said you were getting transported during the night.
Well, I'm sorting it. I'm sorting it.
Okay.
I'm sorting it.
All right.
Let me sort it.
Well, let's hope you sort it better than you did the Newcastle thing. 'Cause we got to Newcastle Station,
yes,
right,
yes.
when we were coming back from Whitley Bay,
yes,
and there was nowhere open to get breakfast.
Well, that's not
so
my fault.
You better organise breakfast.
No, you organise breakfast. You want to fill your fat face with food.
I always need to carbo load after a show.
We need to get back.
Find.
We need to get back because we have a show here starting at 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock, yes,
and running probably until 1.
I would say so.
Maybe even 2.
I think 1.
And then then I will be away.
You better hope it's 1, because otherwise you won't get to Stamford Bridge in time.
Well, I will, because it's 5 o'clock kickoff.
Oh, is it?
5 o'clock kickoff,
okay.
yeah. It's the evening game, so
That's bad news. Have you got tickets sorted yet?
I've got tickets sorted.
Have you?
I've got 2 very good tickets sorted.
2 tickets?
Yes.
I can't go.
No, I'm sorry, you're not invited.
I'm not invited?
No, you're not invited.
Oh, what? From the man who makes such a big fuss and a sort of drama out of the fact he didn't get invited to Piers Morgan's party?
Yes.
You're not inviting me. Who are you taking then?
A friend.
A friend?
Yes.
What, male friend?
No.
A woman?
Maybe.
Really?
Who knows?
You really are branching out, aren't you? Have you been inspired by something in the last few weeks?
Happens to be a Chelsea supporter, so I'm very open-minded about that, you know what I mean?
Well, that's not the only thing you're open-minded about.
Yeah. Now, listen, I need to tell you about somebody who you will know of immediately.
Well, let me read you a couple of tweets first.
Okay.
One from someone who doesn't actually give a name. It's texted into 81089. Last September, Jerry Lee Lewis celebrated his 80th birthday with a show at the London Palladium, which sold out in a few hours.
Wow.
He's still touring and bigger than ever.
When was that?
Last September.
Last September.
That was the start of the text.
Yeah, wow. That's I didn't hear the start. That's great.
How about this from Dale? He said, "Wouldn't it be funny if those builders were listening to the Two Mike show and then create even more rubbish outside Porky's gaff?"
Well, that would be a tragedy.
Yeah.
It's all been cleared up, actually. I called the council and said it's a damn disgrace.
Right.
And they sent round, one of those little machines that has a brush on the side at the bottom.
What?
A little machine that comes up the...
What, do you mean a street cleaner?
Yeah, street cleaner. Comes up the curb and the driver sits on the wrong side. He sits on the wrong side
It's
always.
a street cleaning machine?
Street cleaning machine. Yeah, sent one round for me. It was brilliant.
Sent one round for you?
Yeah, I called up and not a little one, the size of a golf buggy, a huge one, the size of a dust cart, and it came up and swept it all away. I was very pleased.
Well, very happy for you.
I had to knock on people's windows and say, move your
But
car.
if they're back next week, then they'll have to bring the little amazing machine back, won't they?
Well, the building's nearly completed now, and the contractors are coming on a much more rarer basis. So no, I don't mean that. I mean,
what do you mean?
Not as frequently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they finished with their work.
Yeah. Well, it's honestly, the building is a beautiful building, by the way, and it's being completed, and then it's going to be.
What is it? A block of flats or something?
No. It's a huge block of offices which some oil company's taking over.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So where are they going to have to put all the cars then?
They've got an underground car park.
Have they?
As far as I know.
Really?
As far as I know, yeah. That's what I think. Anyway, listen, I need to tell you, because, last week we talked about my thoughts about converting to the Orthodox Russian Church.
Yes.
Russian Orthodox Church.
Yeah.
Quite by coincidence.
Have they responded in any way to you?
No, but this is quite interesting. I found out by complete coincidence, the Queen is set to host an audience for Patriarch Kirill, the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, who arrives for his first...
Is Patriarch a sort of a title rather than a name?
No, that's his name.
Oh, right.
Oh, no, Patriarch, that's right,
What,
father.
you mean like as in father?
Patriarch Kirill.
Yes.
As in father. And look, he's got...
Cyril.
I'll show you a picture of him. He's got the typical sort of Russian Orthodox garb, you know what I mean?
And a big
all the
beard.
robes and a big white beard and all that.
Well, I guess you've got the look for it, haven't you?
He looks...
You've got the look for it.
Don't we look...
You
Anyway.
You don't even have to change the way you look.
Now, what is interesting is, so the royal reception for Patriarch Kirill, head of the Russian Orthodox Church...
How do you spell that?
Kirill.
So it's Cyril, isn't it?
No, it's Kirill.
Yeah,
it's a K.
No, but it's a Russian version of Cyril.
No, it's not.
His name's Cyril.
No, it's not. Head of the Russian Orthodox Church, who arrives for his first UK visit next Saturday. But MPs and a former senior government advisor have called it a propaganda trip from a churchman who has been described as... who has described Vladimir Putin as a miracle of God.
Well, he knows which side his bread is buttered on.
Exactly.
You wouldn't get very far in the Russian Orthodox Church if you were critical of Putin, would you?
Absolutely. And also, the Secret Service in this country have huge suspicions that Patriarch Kirill is an alleged former KGB agent. Also described... He has also described most of Russia's operations overseas as noble and honest.
Right. I mean, you see, this now doesn't surprise me. This is why you want to get in with them, because you think there might be something in it for you, and a few more free trips to the Kremlin.
Apparently, there's a lot of MPs who are sort of kicking a bit of a fuss and saying, is this guy real? And all this kind of stuff. Now, did you know that the reason he's coming is that in Britain there are 300,000 members of the Russian Orthodox Church?
Oh, are there really?
Yeah.
300,000?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a
Isn't
lot.
that amazing?
Well, I told you they've got a lovely church in Knightsbridge, actually.
You told me, yeah.
Back, it's sort of in between Hyde Park and Harrods.
Yes.
Which is worth a visit, because it's beautiful.
And he's coming to mark the 300th anniversary of the opening of the first Russian Orthodox chapel in this country.
Really?
I didn't know we had so many people here. You see, I'm thinking about this.
All right,
thinking about this in a big way.
You're off to do what this afternoon?
Let me see. This afternoon, ahead of the England game. Well, I'm just going to actually study a little bit about what I hope will happen in the England game. Okay,
right.
The possible combinations.
Do you want to predict a score for us?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
What do you reckon?
I think England will win 7-0.
7?
Yes.
I'm going to say 4.
Okay.
And I think they'll let a goal in.
You think they'll go? So you
I
think
don't know why, but I think it'll be 4-1.
4-1. No, I think England will be much more dominant than that. I think England will 7-0.
Well, I hope they're much more dominant than that. But I've got a funny feeling they're going to be cagey.
Why? Why would they be cagey against Malta?
Well, I mean, Gareth Southgate's in the paper saying he's going to have an all-out attack plan.
Yes.
It's like, well, I'm not surprised you play Malta. However, I just don't think that Gareth Southgate's the man, and I'd be amazed if he's instilled anything more than what the England players have got full of at the moment, which is sort of trepidation and fear.
I think you're being very mealy-mouthed about it all, honestly. Well, I would prefer to say, let's all raise up and, give a rousing reception to the England team today under a new manager. Because, I mean, look, the guys...
We've got to stop.
Guys have got to adapt to yet another, regime. So
another regime. Well, they had Roy Hodgson for years. They didn't adapt to that, did
I'm 100% behind them.
Yeah, I know
but Roy Hodgson wasn't very good.
Oh, really? Okay.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM, the warm-up with the two mics on talkSPORT.